This episode is sponsored by Brewers Decorators Centres in support of raising mental health awareness in the UK construction industry. Brewers Decorators Centres have over 200 stores nationwide and offer free next day delivery on all the best brands such as Albany, Benjamin Moore, Dulux, Graco, Mercer, Johnson's, Zinza and Thermogard. And the Talking Tradesman podcast would like to offer our sincere thanks for offering your support in continuing to grow the podcast and reach as many people as possible. Thank you. On to the episode. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Talking Tradesman. Today, all the way from Hull, I've got Carl Crowley.
How are you doing?
Very well, mate. Very well. First of all, man, thank you ever so much for the effort that you've put in coming all the way down to me today. And let's talk.
Yeah, my pleasure, first of all. I appreciate the offer. Thank you. And obviously letting me come on and talk to obviously the people obviously who follow you. So it's much appreciated. Yeah. And I think with the concept of me going from tradesman to obviously going to obviously being a therapist is a massive dynamic change in it. So
it is, mate. So let's talk about that first of all. So you're a gas engineer.
I am qualified. Got my own company. I'm in partnership with a couple of companies, but I'm a qualified gas engineer. I used to do a lot in commercial and stuff like that, but I've sort of like quieting down. I'm going through a transition, not a gender transition. So let me just point that out. Like, I know it might look like a wig, but it's not. I'm going through, I've got my 9 diplomas in psychology, 3 in depression counselling. I'm doing my advanced psychology. I just want to help people.
That's incredible, mate. So Carl's going from gas engineer to motivational therapist, life coach,
and counsellor.
Yeah. Which is, it resonates with the journey that I'm going on, also studying psychology and looking at getting into counselling and the voluntary work that I do. So
doing this is going to help people massively help people. So
that's exactly why it's been set up, mate. So hopefully it already is. The response that I'm getting off the podcast has been fantastic. Had some really moving messages from people that have listened. So yeah, it seems to be doing its thing, mate. But let's have a talk about you.
Yeah.
So as we do, mate, with most journeys, most stories, they have a beginning, a start point. Let's go back to sort of like the early days, the beginning for you then, Carl.
Well, early days for me was, I'll class myself as a feral child. Feral child, yeah. And the reasons why, my upbringing was fatherless. I was taken away from my family at a young age. I was put into like what's called a resettlement project, and it's like childcare. So obviously, while I was in that sort of scenario, taken away from your family at any age isn't always going to be good. It's going to be a bit of a traumatic.
Something a bit strange about that title, resettlement project. It sounds
it's trying to put me into different like sort of care systems. So basically, putting me in with trying to put me into different families. But I was so feral.
Yeah.
So feral. Anytime I was put with somebody, I'd trash the house. I'd set it on fire. That's how feral I was.
Right.
But the thing is, I've actually been diagnosed now, and obviously I hate titles, but with acute depression, OCD and ADHD. Now, you've got to imagine OCD and ADHD are pretty conflicting because ADHD makes you a little bit precise, doing a little bit and you're doing that. But then I have OCD, it makes me obsessive. Yeah. So I'm obsessively doing things and changing. I used to be changing the way I used to see things. But from that point, my granddad sort of took me on. The only role model I had really as a man, even though my mum wasn't even really a good role model. And if like anybody sees this, obviously I'm a main carer now of my mum because mum's got dementia. So I'm massively changed everything. So let me just start. I lost all sense of understanding of like society, if we'll say, by just getting involved with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, and not understanding the consequence. Because you just imagine you're a kid and you do some of the things I did. Like I was bad. I used to trash people's cars and stuff.
Do you know what though, Carl? It spirals, doesn't it? Because when you are like the naughty kid, you hang around with the other naughty kids. You don't, you're the outcast, and you tend to. And I had this through my childhood, where I had no rules. So I could go out and do whatever I wanted till whenever I wanted. Yeah. And then you naturally then hang around with other kids that have got the same rule set or lack of rule set. So it does spiral quite easily.
It's that sort of concept where if you've got no consequences, you just carry on. And that's the thing. It's like with if you're not being punished, then there's no consequences. Technically, it's just I'll do what I want when I want. Yeah. And you're trying to get into the structure of society being that way. My granddad literally, he used to whoop my ass.
Really?
Yeah, when he started like obviously paying attention to how I used to be, I remember he used to sit he used to tell me to shut up. He used to be like, he used to call me Bew. He used to go, shut the fuck up, Bew. And he'd sit there, and I'd sit in a chair like this. And he just, I don't know how my granddad used to do it. He used to fall asleep with his eyes open. And I was petrified. Honestly, he just like, he'd sit there and I'd be like, is he awake? And I'd be in front of him and I'd literally be asleep. But I don't know how he used to do it, but that's the only person. But he was a man. Like he said, he went, and I was 7, I think it was like 16, 17. He's like, you're going in the army. And like, so no qualifications, I left school with nothing.
Yeah.
Like, and he was like, you're going in the army. And he thought that was the best outcome for me, because previously, before that, when I was in the resettlement project, I've mentioned this on Dan's podcast, but like I'd gone through losing my family. My auntie was murdered before this.
Your auntie was murdered?
Yeah, Auntie Cathy, yeah. She was murdered and chucked off Scarborough Cliffs.
She was what? Sorry.
She was attacked, assaulted, and chucked off Scarborough Cliffs, and nobody ever found the woman. My Auntie Cathy, she was a woman that named me. So this is the thing. So when I tell people about this, it's like my mum didn't know what to name me, because I'm a one-night stand child. So that's why my father was not involved. No, Dad, yeah. So basically, like, she didn't know what to call me, because my mum was sort of still involved with my brother's dad. So she didn't know what to call me. She was sort of like trying to stay intertwined with my brothers and their dad and stuff. So my Auntie Cathy named me. Obviously, she's pretty comic. She used to be a bit of a comic, if I'm going to be honest, because her son was called Brian Aaron Brooks, and his initials is Bab. And she called me Carl Anthony Crowley. My name was Cack, and I always used to think, is she taking the piss out of me or something? But she was, so she disappeared, and she went missing for a couple of days, and obviously police were involved. But then she was found at the bottom of Scarborough Cliffs. She'd been beaten up and chucked off Scarborough Cliffs.
Fucking hell,
so
and nobody ever, there was never any resolution.
No prosecution, no resolution, no nothing.
Jesus
Christ. So from that, obviously, that.
How old were you at this stage, Carl?
I was about 13. So that was like a trigger of loss. That was like the first sort of trauma of.
That's a massive trauma though, as well, for a 13-year-old to process.
Well, the thing is, not having no role model, no like sort of father figure. And obviously, just having my mum, and now, I'm never slating my mum, because I love my mum and she's everything to me. But she used to be in pub every day. And I mean, in our generation, it was like kids go out and just go. My mum used to be in pub. She used to just be in pub. She'd come back I'd never bring my kids up like that. Let me just point that out. But it's that era, and this is where. Like I always say to people, like, if you're going to punish your parents, just remember the generational thing. You can't hold them hostage for that generation, because that's how they was. Yeah. So if you're going to go, but my mum was never there. Yeah, but was any mum there? Was any dad there? So you're going to punish your parents, and you're going to hold a grudge for just because of that generational structure.
100%, mate. Completely agree with that. The generational thing is massive when it comes to looking back. And like you said about your granddad used to beat you. Like these days, that'd be like police, he'd be in prison.
Oh, no,
whereas then it was normal, and it is important to remember that. Like every naughty kid got a clout. It was a normal thing. But I can resonate with that as well, mate. I mean, I was really close to my granddad, really close. Me and my dad fell out. We fell out. Obviously, I know my dad, but we fell out when I was 17. Didn't speak for 8 years, and my granddad became like the father figure at that stage. So I can resonate with that. Right?
Yeah, it's sometimes when I explain it to people, because they don't. Some people are holding on to the pain instead of actually progressing to the present. And the way I say it like that is because it's easier to hold on to pain, because it's harder to accept to change. And I always say to people, like, you can. Holding on to an hammer for the rest of your life basically is like holding on to a trauma, and you try and live your everyday life holding on to this hammer. If you don't let it go, you're going to be walking around with pain and suffering and aching and stuff. And I always use that as a point of reference, where it's like, if you're going to hold on to it, but then somebody will always say, but how do you forgive something? Listen, you never have to forgive. I always say, you never have to forgive anything that anybody does to you, but you need to forgive yourself for holding on to the pain of obviously the things that they did. I said, because if you're going to hold on to the pain, then how are you going to progress forward and be a better person? And that's the thing I always try and make people understand. You don't have to forgive. You could do me wrong, and obviously I can walk away and be like, all right, it's done me wrong. Right? What am I going to do? Be vengeful towards you forever? It's like, that's making me punish myself. Why would I want to do that? And that's why I always try and emphasize to people, listen, forgiveness isn't about the person that's done wrong, the person that's cheated, the person that's created the trauma. It's not about that. It's about trying to understand that if you hold on to this, then you ain't going to be the best person. And it goes along the saying of obviously what Dr. Joe Dispenza says. And if you don't know how to love yourself, how can you expect anybody else to love you how you want to be loved? Because you're living in a life of confusion, because you don't even know. So how can you expect anybody else to treat you how you want to be treated if you don't treat yourself right?
Yeah. Exactly that, mate. At the end of the day, when you hold on to that trauma, it's you that's being hurt.
Absolutely.
You know, and there's I think I can't remember where the quote came from, but essentially what it was that I think it was potentially a Stoic quote from the ancient Greeks. I studied Stoicism for a while, actually, like brilliant, like Marcus Aurelius and the meditations and stuff like that. Brilliant. It's incredible, actually, to not go too far off topic, but that knowledge was like over 2,000 years old, and it's still so relevant today.
Well, when we go into the process of obviously how I've managed to change, I'm gonna touch on that sort of topic, because I love that topic.
Okay.
But so going on to like what happened. Obviously, I was in a resettlement project, and my girlfriend, her name was Sammy, and she climbed through the window. This got me on the last podcast, but I've been reprogramming my mind a little bit, so I'm hopefully it's not going to hurt me. She climbed through the window drunk, and me being a stupid like 15-year-old, I literally she was women talking when you're drunk. I'm sorry, women, you're annoying. I'm sorry, they are. They get real annoying. I'm sorry. So, and like I've had to forgive myself for this, because I literally, while she was mumbling, I cuddled her, and then she was talking, and I just went, look, just go to sleep, and I turned over, and obviously, to which like I fell asleep, and I wish I fucking didn't, mate, if I'm going to be honest. I woke up and she died. She choked up. She was being sick during the night, and I literally just slept, and I thought she was just. I don't even know, and that's my biggest fucking regret. Biggest regret, not waking up. And this is why ultimately, like when I say this to anybody, I can't sleep, or I can't function right when my girls run well. Like if they're with me, I don't sleep. I've been before when Amelia, my eldest daughter, she's really prone to being unwell. I've been, when I've had her for like 4 nights, 3 nights when I sleep because of her. And it's not a bad thing, Amelia. So if you do, it's just, I hold her. It's me. I can't lose anybody again to that situation. So for me, man, that fucked me up.
But look, man, you've got to forgive yourself for the fact that it did.
Again,
because it would fuck anyone up. Especially at 15, you know, the really important thing to remember there is we're not even developed at that age. And mentally, it's like, what do they say, mid-20s until you're fully, like, cognitively developed. So at 15, you got all your hormones raging, and you have that huge trauma, and then no doubt all the guilt. Yes, I think anyone would go off the rails, Carl, to be honest.
And this is what, like, I've punished myself so much, and I've made so many mistakes. And this is why I always say you have to forgive the situation, the mistakes you've done. Because from that point, going out, getting into fights, obviously joining boxing clubs, getting into more fights, stealing, drinking, doing drugs. Just
to sort of pull back a little to when that happened to you, was there any support around you? Because I imagine, you know, you would have been in a right mess. No. Did you have any support emotionally from family, friends, anything?
You know, that's probably one of the things which I still haven't like sort of come to grips with because of a few things. But no, mate. No, I had.
And you were just left at 15 to go deal with that.
When it happened, obviously, the situation happened. Obviously, there was an investigation. There was police involved. There was loads of stuff. There was like see if I'd done anything wrong. See if there was drugs involved, and I was sort of like left. Because my family weren't allowed to contact me, if I'm going to be honest. So I couldn't really tell them what had gone on. So I was sat in the resettlement project, like thinking to myself, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? And literally I ran away. And John Black, he was the Lord Mayor at the time. And there was 2 resettlement projects. And there was one for adults, which my mum was in, actually. My mum was in that one. And they moved me to the other child one, which was too close to where my mum was, because I wasn't allowed to be anywhere near my mum at the time. Okay. So because it was all fucking chaos. Yeah. And trying to understand it, because there was little like triggers, but like it's real weird, right? Because I suppressed quite a lot, but I remember quite a lot. But even now talking about this, I remember there was an instance when like I was in the other hostel, and even though I had to stay away from my mum, I heard that some guy called Neil had hit my mum. And I remember I went to the other resettlement project and I beat shit out of him. So, and that's just like, you've just reminded me about that, because I had to go to Rawlins Way and that was real close to the one in town. So there's still things that like I've not actually dealt with, which is a bit. I totally forgot about that.
I'm sorry you went through that, mate.
No.
Particularly the no support side of it, because I can't. I mean, my son turned 17 this week, and I know their generation's very different. But to think, and you always do, you put it onto your kids, and it's when it's you process it, don't you? Like, oh well, it's me. I've got to just accept that and move on. But when you project that scenario onto people that you love, and that it just sounds horrendous, mate.
I personally, like, my opinion now is like, keep an eye on our kids, because I personally feel that they're more vulnerable than what we was. And the reason being is because they're being subjected to more difference in, I'm going to call it manipulation, and they're getting too much, like, they're giving children too much of an opinion, too much of freedom. And as a child, like, at a young age, if you're given that much responsibility and your emotions, like what you stated, they're not developed, you can't handle that pressure. As a child, you can't handle certain amounts of pressure because it messes you up. Clearly, I'm an example of that. So, like, worrying about our children, I protect my kids as much as possible.
Yeah.
And especially with what's going on in today's society of delusion. So, and we both know that, and we can't really touch on certain topics like that. But no, from...
So at that stage, Carl, was your granddad in your life?
I was only allowed to pop and go see, because obviously the distance was, I think it was probably about 20 miles, which 20 miles to me now is nothing. But when you were a kid...
That's another country, isn't it?
When you're a kid, especially like with my height, like my legs would have... I remember, to be honest with you, I only got to see him on a weekend. I only got to see him on weekends, really. And even then it was like few and far between. But like, I sometimes I do sit back and I try and remember certain, like, years, like certain periods, but nothing ever's like sort of the only things that refresh to me is my traumas. So like, I remember like walking and getting beaten up by 3 kids, and obviously literally like beat to shit out of me. Like, they literally like messed me up, like, and in between that, I don't remember. There was no school. There was no education. I just remember it being chaos.
I heard a conversation once. I can't remember who it was. Some kind of psychologist, and how they described trauma. They said at the point of trauma, it becomes crystallized and frozen.
Yeah,
and that's why a lot of things like childhood trauma, when they're not dealt with, and you get triggered by something that reminds you of it, you revert to that child state, and those feelings are just as fresh then as they might have been. It could be 20 years later. You're in that moment again. And that, I think, it resonated with me, because I thought that vision of like a frozen image in time that doesn't ever get older. You don't see it with more mature eyes. You see it as that person, like you're back there when you get triggered. And that's one of the really important things about working through those traumas.
Yeah. It's called, to be honest with you, I've looked into it more, and it's called neurosynaptic connections. That's what it's called when it comes to the brain, when it comes to like trauma. Because basically, it's like when I explain to somebody, it's like when you lose somebody, the feelings that you actually go through right there and then, obviously, of grieving or bereavement or heartbreak, basically what you do is you implant what's called a neurosynaptic memory of the chemical release. So like the chemical release, the way you felt, everything about it. And when somebody's like, say, now if I was to remind you, like what we've just talked about, Sammy, that all the chemicals that I felt right there, the pain that I felt right there is just overwhelming me again. So basically it's a memory, which is, like you said, crystallized, but you carry it on for life, and the same chemicals, the same thoughts, the same emotions will always be arisen, unless you sort of like dissect it or do like what's called a live autopsy and pull it apart and try and understand, like, the things that have happened wasn't my fault.
No, of course.
Like, there's things that's gone through in anybody's life. So half the time when people say about victim mentality, it's like, what you're saying, I shouldn't be a victim. No, you are a victim. But the thing is, you're holding on to that victim mentality because it's something you've got used to. And I know now what you've just said is 100% correct, because even now, after I've spoke about this on numerous podcasts, it still affects me.
Yeah,
it still affects me, but it's the recovery process that I've dynamically changed. So like now, when I go from here, I know exactly how to overcome this. I know exactly how to take these feelings apart.
What I will say, Carl, at this stage, mate, is massive kudos to you, because you know this. You're also very intelligent. You understand the process. and you're still willing to bring that up and talk about it multiple times with a view to helping others.
Absolutely.
So massive credit to you for, again, being here today, but also talking about these subjects that are so emotive for you, you know, so huge credit, mate. You know,
well, again, like if people can learn anything from me, instead of obviously thinking that the answer's in a bottom of a bag or the bottom of obviously a beer glass, then for me, I'll relive as many fucking traumas as I have to try and help somebody. Because if I just help one person, then that's enough for me.
Yeah,
similar to what you're doing.
100%, mate. And you know, we'll move on through your story, but I know that there's more trauma, and that's one of the things why I think it's important to talk about, because people can listen and think, well, Christ, if he's gone through that, well, they might even be sat there thinking, I've gone through similar. And then we'll move on to where you're at today and what you're doing today. And it's that if you can process and grow through those traumas, you know, post-traumatic growth is an expression I love.
Yeah.
You know, if you can do it, it just hopefully shows other people that, you know
Anyone
what,
can.
yeah, we can all do this.
One of the things, obviously, with it being in obviously the trade side, and I want to mention to this because there's a lot of tradesmen who are suffering with mental health. Like the concept of working Monday to Friday and going to the weekend and getting pissed up, and obviously getting a couple of gram and obviously going out and getting wrecked, that is a reaffirming, dangerous life cycle which will push you to the point of your cracking.
Yeah.
And the reasons why, there's a few things which I'm going to talk about. The one thing, one of my biggest regrets is losing my wife and losing my kids. Now, she's very happy with a good relationship. And let me just point out there, there's no, I wish I was with her. There's none of that, because we're really good friends. But me going out every weekend and me being egotistically going out, getting drunk, caused me to lose my wife, caused me to split up my family, caused me to mess up everything. So, like, I know when, as a tradesman still, but going on to it, even though, like you mentioned, going out and socialising is always good, because we need that as a man. We need to be able to do that. But it's who you do it with.
Yeah.
And it's who you surround yourself with.
And how you do it.
Exactly.
How you do it.
Because we get to a point, and this is one of the things I always used to say to myself, because I was real confused about it, but it's like, I sometimes want to forget everything. And the only way I used to be able to, as a coping mechanism, was let's just go get 3 gram and let's just go get a couple of pints, and next minute you're dancing around. But then the reoccurring thing, and this is where obviously people, again, are going to start getting punished by society, is you're out until 4 a.m, you go home, you feel like shit. You're absolutely dying. Your kids are running around. Your missus is at you. You literally sat there telling her, I'm not going to do it again. You're gaslighting her. You love bombing her. She's like, honestly, it's just the one. 7 days later, you're doing the exact fucking same. Yeah. And then you lose your partner, and then you're fighting for your kids, and then it's a spiral. But then you're sat there, and I always say this to men, like, if you're going to be that type of person, and then when it all falls apart, and then you're going to play a victim of going, no, she's stopping me from seeing my kids. Can you be trusted if you do drugs every weekend? Can you be trusted if you're fucking getting pissed all the time? Because me personally, when I lost my kids, like, I couldn't see my kids for 6 months. Yeah. And it was like I had to go to court, and I was thinking, why am I having to fight for my kids? Why am I having to do this? My fucking behaviour did it. My behaviour did it. So when I say to people, it's like, I was a piece of shit. I was egotistical. I was stubborn. I was not aggressive in a sense, but I was like verbally, like abusively aggressive. And like I lost track of everything. And then I used to sit there thinking, oh, it's all because of her. She's stopping me from seeing my kids. Yeah, why is she stopping me? Now I sit back and go, Carl, why was she stopping you? Because you was a prick, Carl. Why? Because you was abusive. Yeah, but it wasn't that. Yeah, but you used to get pissed all the time, Carl. You literally, you used to do drugs. You used to be an alcoholic, Carl. Can you see what she was doing? And like now I go, fucking protecting the kids.
Yeah.
And I was trying to punish her when really I should have been punishing fucking myself.
I think, again, what you said there, it intertwines, doesn't it? The people you surround yourself with. Because and it is a culture within the construction industry, we work fucking hard.
Absolutely.
And we go Monday to Friday, and then Friday we need to unwind. How do we unwind? We go to the pub. We do drugs, we drink, we party, and then you're out, like you said, till 3, 4 in the morning. And really, after a hard week's work, what you want to do is relax. You want to catch up.
Absolutely.
We do the opposite to ourselves. We go out, we lose sleep, we do substances that impact our sleep. And we surround ourselves with a group of people doing the same thing. So when then you've got a group of 5 mates and you all do the same thing, you meet up every Friday, you go on the sesh, your missus is then giving you grief because, like you quite rightly said, you're being an arsehole. your support group around you go, my missus has said that, are all in the same position and telling you it's your missus that's wrong.
Absolutely.
Because you're all doing the same thing, and it's like self-affirming, isn't it, by your own social circle. And it's a big thing, mate, to step away from. I mean, just recently, for example, I had one of my previous guests on as a Sparky, and him and his mates have just done the 3 Peaks Challenge. 14 of them, and I know most of these lads, and they've done it because 2 of their friends, lads that I knew and grew up with as well, have taken their own life in the last 18 months. Both lads in the trades, scaffolder and a plasterer. And they did this challenge for them. But talking to Bryn, my previous guest, he said it's just been brilliant because they did loads of training for it. So all of a sudden then you've got these 14 lads that used to meet up in the pub, climbing mountains, walking hills, out for walks. And he was like, we actually talk. Actually talk, about genuinely important things. They talk about family stuff they've got going on at home. When they went out at a weekend, they never talk about that. Do you know what I mean? You might stand there and go, oh, my missus is being a dick.
All the sat like that.
Yeah, exactly.
On the phone. It's like, good communication, lads.
Yeah, and he said, he was like, it's been therapy for a lot of them, know. And that's the thing I think we need to realise is you can still socialise with your mates. It don't have to be in a nightclub sniffed up at 3 a.m.
Absolutely. I think the culture's massively changing. And that's one thing there's a lot more now for like people like yourself and people like me who are creating groups, because I've got like a group of like 17 people who are in my like chat, and I've put them onto life coaching with cold water therapy and stuff like that. And I like to organise to do things, even if it's just sunrise or sunset or airfare, because I'm into frequencies and I'm into stuff like that. But I never used to be. I used to be into, obviously, like, let's get pissed, let's get some down, let's go dancing. Oh, who's that guy looking at? And it was just a constant. It's called a tornado of toxicity. If you surround yourself with those tornadoes, you're just going to be swept up in it. So every now and again, you just got to step back and go, look at all that. Now, I'm not saying, and this is for everybody, I'm not saying to none of your mates are intentionally trying to obviously cause you problems, because it's a societal thing. Because so like when your mates going, like, because we all have a partner and like, or a missus, and it's like, oh, so and so's a bad influence on you. No. Basically, he might have had a lot of shit going on, and you can't really hold him hostage to his past, because at the end of the day, he wants to have a good life, he wants to live, but at the end of the day, he's just lost at the minute. So don't punish him, and don't try and make me pull away from him, because me pulling away from him, because like what you just said, could make him go over the edge. Because I lost 3 mates last year to suicide.
3 mates
last year to suicide. I went to 2 funerals, and the last one I was like, I ain't going to another funeral. I'm not going to another funeral. Well, even one of my mates died of myocarditis. One of my mates here I used to be in school with. So I was like, so I've lost last year closely 4, obviously friends of friends. There must be about 12. And male suicide. And even though I know there's an increase on both, but male suicide's fucking taking the piss now.
It's horrific, mate. And the more with doing the podcast for me, I mean, I knew personally of my social circle where it affected people and happened. Since doing this and talking to people, I'm realising just how common it is. I had a message from somebody last night, somebody that I've spoken to in the past, who opened up and admitted that their life has been affected by it. And I would never have known, but it is so common. And I mean, statistically, mate, I don't know if you were aware, did you know that the construction industry is the worst industry by demographic in the UK for male suicide?
Absolutely, I do, yeah, because of the stresses of it.
4 times more likely to end your own life if you work in the UK construction industry.
I understand the reasons why, because obviously when you're self-employed or when you're a subby, because obviously they try pushing every tradesman to be a subby. Now, the demographic of that is now you're fearing about work. Am I going to have work next week? Obviously, my bills. And the way to go, I'm not going to say the G word, but the way, where the government is now, they're punishing every person. The middle class, the lower class don't even care about. The middle class, they're starting to push us to the lower class. And everything is so expensive. Now, I'm a single dad, so obviously I have 3 forms of income. And I don't sell my feet on OnlyFans or anything like that, so let's not think about it. But I have to worry about my obviously finances. I have to worry about making sure the kids have got everything. I've got to make sure, am I going to get another job? Do I do this? And it's so overwhelming for men.
Look, mate, you're an incredibly hardworking guy. You've got 3 things going on, and not every man wants that. All that. And I've had this conversation very recently where I've said it's notable for me, the change in UK society, in that I'll speak openly, mate, because I've been running my business 24 years now. Nice. When I first started in business, it was common that there was a man at work and a housewife at home with the kids.
Yep.
Now that is so fucking rare.
Yeah, I know.
Because now you have to have both partners out working just to survive.
Mm.
So now the common thing is, like with the younger generation that I work for as customers, it's mom and dad are at work and the kids are in childcare. Because they have to get that twin income.
Yeah.
And I look at my own household, and don't get me wrong, mate, I'm not moaning. Like me and my wife, we've touched wood, we've got a decent standard of living. We're not rich, but we're okay.
Yeah.
Nice house, nice enough cars, all the rest of it. But we work damn hard for that. And I look at the pair of us in business and I actually think we should be rich.
Yeah.
Like we're not.
Yeah.
We're surviving, mate. I'll be honest with you. We're prisoner to our possessions anyway. So you're constantly trying to pay for things like the house, the cars, and all the rest of it. We're surviving. We're not thriving.
Yeah.
And I look at society now and I look back and I think, how was it 20 years ago that one bloke could go to not even a high-flying job, like a normal job, and support an entire family? Because they can't do that now.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when we studying psychology, I've read The Arts of War. I've read quite a few books, to be honest with you. And I know the dynamics when it comes to destabilization of the population due to certain factors. Yeah. Now, I'll quickly brief on this, but I don't really want to get into it. But obviously, there's religious wars, there's gender wars, there's obviously everything going on. There's Just Stop Oil, there's all this. And then the dynamics of it is, if you can create destabilization throughout the population, then they can just increase the tax, increase the VAT, increase everything. And then basically you're going, what's going on? It's like, how come literally somebody bought 3 items yesterday from Tesco's, and I saw it on social media. It was like bacon, some sauce, and it was just some pasta, like 12 quid.
Yeah.
12 quid for 3 items. And I'm like, single mum buying 3 items just to feed the kids, 12 quid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's disgusting. That is. Now, we won't go into the politics side because I've got a lot of stuff I could say on about it. But I want to keep on the process of how, as tradesmen, need more support. And one of the things which you've just mentioned about obviously getting a good form of living is so hard now when it comes to single dads or single mothers. But tradesmen have got that negative. It's like a negative cloud over them of fear, and I understand the reasons why, because there's no support. And I have an opinion on this. So if you want to listen to it, then judge me on it. If
not at all.
In this in today's society, everybody always says to me, "Why are men taking their own life then?" And I'm like, well, if you think about it, we've been asked to be more feminine, to be more open. Men need to show their emotions. I think that's bullshit. I'm sorry to say that. If you're watching this, I think it's bullshit. Men need to be stoic. Men need to have a little bit of culture, a little bit of religion in them, and actually just be men. And the reasons why I say that, it's always good to talk, but talk to the people that you know that's not going to weaponize it and throw it in your face or use it against you to manipulate you. And the reasons why is because at this moment, it's so dangerous, because if you, children, we wasn't taught how to express ourselves. So as a little kid, when you was growing up, get up, stop being a little pussy, come on, stop crying, man up, will you? And that happens. So obviously that's what creates what's called a subconscious personality trait. So when you grow up, they're asking you to express your feelings, but you don't know how to because you've never done it as a child. So when you do it as a man, you're just like, well, you just fucking leave me alone. What are you doing? Why are you being like that? Oh, you're toxic. You're aggressive. You're a narcissist. You're treating me like shit. Because this narcissist bollocks is being obviously taken from, it was a psychologist in Geneva. It wasn't Geneva. It was a state of Illinois where it was prisoners stabbing each other. So they actually created toxic masculinity from that. Yeah. So it's not even toxic masculinity. It's not even real. It's that you get toxic people. You're a toxic piece of shit. There's no toxic femininity. There's no toxic masculinity. That is a psychological fact. So now men are so afraid because they've been told to be emotional, but they don't know how to express themselves. But when they do express themselves, you're a narcissist, you're a misogynist. So you're basically putting a gun to a man's head, and you're saying to that man, if you express yourself, I'm going to deem you as a fucking narcissist. So you basically, you step out of line, I'm going to post on social media, oh, he's treated me like this, he said this to me, or he's abusive. When all he really said was, just fucking do the tea. What are you being like that for? Just what you're creating a situation for. Now, that's not me being misogynistic, because obviously I'm very understanding when it comes to, obviously, misandrist, misogynist. I understand that because I've been studying it. But if you try and ask a man now to open up, they're petrified to open up. So this is why I always say to any man out there, open up to somebody who knows not going to weaponize it. Seek help. But when you go seek help, don't just go to the doctor and go, I'm not feeling too good. First of all, I always say, go get a fucking blood test. Like, why? Because why are you feeling down? I don't know. What food are you eating? I don't know.
Mm.
Well, do a blood test then. Let's have a look at what your levels are. What's your magnesium level? What's your iron level? What's your copper level? Because if you've got a deficiency in your body, like structurally, and you're not feeling yourself, then maybe it might be the deficiency that's adding to the lack of serotonin release inside your body. Because what people don't realize, serotonin release, which people think it's in the brain, 60% is in the stomach.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you even know what are you taking care of yourself?
Gut health is massive, Carl, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so I know intricately the dynamics of the body when it comes to obviously epigenetics, neurolinguistics. I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So this is why when we get onto the coping side of it, when people say to me, how do you manage to cope, is I make sure I look after me. Looking after me is important. And that's why I always say to anybody, like, I'll do your life program. We'll sit down. I'll do you, like, we have to do cold showers. If not, you have to do an ice bath. Yeah, but why? And then I go into the dynamics of what it does and the way, obviously, it creates. A lot of people don't agree with it, but I can go into the science behind it. Where when you plunge yourself, you're basically touching what's called the vagus nerve on the back. Puts you into what's called hypothermic shock. Basically, your arteries close up, and when your arteries close up, your brain starts releasing serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, anti-inflammatories to stop you from obviously going into a shock. And then obviously what you get from your liver is what's called cold shock protein, and that stimulates the serotonin in your stomach. So then when you get out and you have a nice warm shower or you shot cayenne pepper, it opens up your arteries. You're feeling amazing. It's like I've seen it on TikTok and that, but it's true. You get 2.5 at a dopamine, which is basically having a Kia Coke for like 10 minutes, but instead you're having it for 2.5 hours. And I'm like,
to be fair, mate, I've seen that stat that cold plunge gives you more dopamine than cocaine.
100%.
I mean, I love the idea of it, mate. I've not done it. I'll be honest with you. I've done it a couple of times at like spas and that, and it's good. But I've read the Wim Hof books and the science behind it, and it fascinated me. I've just never got round to doing it.
A lot of people don't like cold, but the other thing which I've come to create a thesis on it is the psychological awareness of it, because I don't want to get in it. Let me just point that out. Like I sit in it as if it's heaven, but it's not. But the thing is, like I always say to people, why do you drink? Or why do you drink? Well, I drink to forget, right? Okay. So why do you do drugs? Well, just, it's a coping mechanism to take you out where you are right now, because your thoughts were overwhelming you and now you're becoming more depressed and angry, right? So when you sit in an ice bath, what you're thinking about? Not freezing to death.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, the benefits are the dopamine. And then it's like when I go running, like you saw me running this morning at 4 a.m., like I run because that's the only time I'm free. And it's like, I'm not even running fast. I'm not an Olympic athlete. Just while I'm doing that, it takes away all the thoughts of my ADHD, all the thoughts of obviously my courses I've got to be doing, all my work. And it's like being controlled. The thesis I've got behind it is being controlled, or being able to control your decisions gives you the element of power. And that's why when somebody says to me, yeah, but it ain't cold. I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, not many people want to do it, but I do. And it's like,
it's meditative though, isn't it? To a degree. See, me, my thing with that is going to the gym and lifting weights.
Yeah.
So lifting heavy puts me in the moment. And that's what the cold plunge does. You cannot think about anything else.
Yeah,
you are there in the moment. So it's that state of meditate. I've never been good at meditating. I'm an overthinker. My brain's going 100 miles an hour. I can't sit in a quiet room and cross my legs, and I can't do it because my brain I could probably train it, Carl, to be fair. I've never tried. I've tried to meditate, and within seconds I'm like, here and there and everywhere. But for me, as I say, lifting heavy, that centers me and brings me into the moment. For you, the cold plunge will do the same. The running will do the same.
There's a question that, which because when I was because I've been to Thailand a few times, there was a question. Sorry, and basically I was mentioning the same thing, because obviously I also OCD and ADHD, my head's all over the place. And this guy said to me, sorry, he went, I want you to ask yourself a question. And I was like, what is it? Anyway, I want you to sit quiet with your eyes closed and ask yourself, what's my next thought? And that's how you blank your mind, because if you sit there,
what's your next thought?
And obviously, so if you just try and concentrate, and obviously if anybody wants to try this, sorry about coffee.
Try this at home.
Try this at home, honestly. But if you just literally sit there and close your eyes and think, I wonder what my next thought's going to be. And you actually process on that and just try and think about it, your mind just goes blank. Honestly, tonight when you're at home, just try it, mate. Honestly, because it's because again, thoughts, feelings, everything's going off, and you're worried about certain things. But when you just sit there and I just think, I wonder what my next thought's going to be. Just a simple question. I wonder what it is. And it just blanks your mind. And I'm like, shit, how did that come about? Because you're thinking about what it's going to be, but you don't even know.
Yeah.
So it just blanks your mind. But sorry about the coffee.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but also when it comes to obviously trying to destabilize the mind, when it comes to obviously all this chaos, which we always have, the cold plunge is a bonus. But half the time, I like to sort of sit and think about the situation I'm in right now. And this is what I want people to obviously do, especially if you're suffering with depression, and especially the lads in the trade. I understand, like, we have problems with our exes, problems with finances, and we've gone through a lot of shit, which we have because we're men, and we do get a bit of a hard straw. I know women do as well, so I don't want women obviously attacking the podcast and saying, "No, he's this and that," because we know we've all got how difficult it is, but men do tend to get the short straw.
There's a very obvious problem with men at the minute, Carl. And you quite rightly said, there's this thing, isn't it? Everything gets competitive when you put a label on it. So when you say men, women go, well, what about us? And when you say women, men go, what about us? It's not that. Let's just concentrate on the fact that there's a clear, apparent problem with men's mental health, particularly in the trades. But overall, I mean, 75% of all people that take their lives are men. That shows there's more of a problem with men. It's undisputable. You can't argue with it. That doesn't mean that the 25% of women that are involved are not to be thought about. Yes, there's a problem there too. But it's okay to focus on one thing and not another, you know?
Tackle one thing at a time.
Exactly that.
Just tackle one thing at a time. So,
yeah.
But this is the thing, though. This is why men are from Mars. Obviously, is it men are from Mars, women from Venus, or something like that? They have that correlation.
Yeah, we're from one each.
From one each. And the thing is, though, it's like I've sat there and I've listened, obviously, because I listen to obviously people being counselled because I'm doing clinical hours, and I've always seen that no matter what, when one person mentions something, like it's normally the other side that goes, yeah, but you do this because of that, and I'm like, yeah, but you're not creating a solution before you create a problem. So create a solution first, and this is why I always say, like, because I speak to couples, and I always say to them, like, write everything down. So you write your stuff down, and you write your stuff down. You ask that one question, create a solution. For instance, I'm sick of you having a go at me. And it's like, yeah, but why do I have a go at you? Because of this. So, right, okay, I'm sick of you having a go at me. So why do I? Right, because you never tidy up, you never take the bins out. Right, okay, I will make sure I do that. Now your go. And instead it's like, well, they'll say one thing and next minute they'll just have to attack them. It's like, yeah, well, you don't do this. And it's like, well, you just shut up and let's just sort this out.
Yeah.
Because communication is key. Communication is key. And if you just drop this, and it's a big thing, ego. Ego is a big thing for people, men and women. It's not just in men, even though men are very proud. It's not just in men anymore, because now ego is destroying everything. Because I always say, kill your ego, kill the problem. And it's a big thing for me. I always say, like, don't let your ego make a decision, because obviously the way somebody reacts defines the outcome. And it's my favourite saying, the way you react defines the outcome. I say it to my kids, the way you respond defines the outcome. So if somebody's antagonising you, if you react aggressively, you're going to, like, obviously over-exaggerate it. You're going to get aggressive. You could probably end up fighting. You could lose a friend. But if you were saying something to me, like in disregard or disrespect, I'm like, well, that's fine because you're entitled to that opinion. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I appreciate the feedback. So thank you. And it's like, shit, he just took the power away from me.
Yeah, exactly.
The way you respond defines the outcome.
Yeah.
The way you respond.
100%, mate. I think it's that self-awareness, Carl, isn't it? That is the first thing that people have to work on. There's so many people that have no self-awareness. They're just reactive beings. They walk around all day being reactive to the external stimulation that's around us. And that's, again, one of the quotes that I loved, which is, you're not in control of the things that happen to you, only your reaction to those things. I think it was Epictetus that said that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And that, if you take that very simple saying and apply it to your life, it's true. And that's where you talked earlier about the victim mentality and the victim complex, as it were. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people let the events that happen to them define them as a person. They become that trauma. That is their identity. And some people are also, they're scared to put it down. They're scared to put down the label of whatever it might be, the abandoned child, because that's their identity. And I'll speak openly, mate. Some people use it as an excuse.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, I drink because of this. You know, well, I drink because my dad was an alcoholic, so I'm an alcoholic too.
Yeah. Completely agree.
You're using your child trauma of witnessing and growing up around that, and now you're identifying as it.
Yeah.
You are that thing. You are making your whole identity an event.
Yeah,
You know?
I always say, like, you're using your trauma to justify your bad personality, and it's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you've gone through this, now you're going to treat other people like shit because you're saying it's okay because you went through that, and I'm like, it's not okay. Do you? And I love saying, do you feel it's right the way you are with people? Well, obviously not. So why are you using it as an excuse to get out of everything? Oh, I cheated on him. Yeah, but why? Well, I've been cheated on. I know. It's like, no, you're just continuation of being a piece of shit because they was a piece of shit. Yeah. This is why when dealing with like a relationship sort of scenario, when you're dealing with a narcissist, they always go, I'm not a narcissist. I'm like, was you ever a little bit controlling, saying, I don't want you going out? It's like, well, yeah. And did you ever say like, oh, I don't like that, what your mates have said? Like, yeah, well, that's narcissistic tendencies. NP or narcissistic personality disorder is different to narcissistic tendencies. I've got narcissistic tendencies, and it's like, well, what? I'm very controlling of my kids. What? I'm like, yeah, I don't want them to be going out and obviously hanging around with the wrong people. So does that mean I'm a narcissist, or does it mean I'm trying to protect the people I love? So don't get and this is a big thing in society. People get so confused, and it's a title to go narcissist. I'm like, no. And one of the things, right, when Pete, and this really gets to me, it's like it's been mentioned about insecurity. Men are so insecure. And I always say to people, it's like, so women, you're in a relationship, why is he insecure? Because obviously I talk to couples. I say, why is he insecure? Well, he's so controlling. I'm like, well, tell me why. He's like, well, the way he dresses, or the way I dress, he always has opinion. Right, well, listen to me. If he didn't give a shit about you, he wouldn't be bothered. That's not insecurity. It means he loves you. And because he loves you, he doesn't want you going out and making yourself look enticing to other people, because that's because he wants you. He wants you. So if he didn't care about you, then obviously it'd let you go and do what you want. But if you're going to say he's insecure, I don't think he's insecure, because insecure means he wouldn't care. So, and it's like, it's an adverse. Women have used that so much. It's like, oh, he's so controlling. He's insecure. He's like, real easy though. I said, because if he's just basically trying to protect obviously what he feels is part of him, then that's not insecure. That's just trying to protect you. And he's not afraid to lose you. So that's why he'll question you. So if he was insecure, he wouldn't question you. He wouldn't ask you to not wear it. I said, an insecure man won't say a single thing. They'll just literally sit there because they don't want to lose you. But if he does want to lose you, he will make a point about it. And it's like, well, no, that's just, you just manipulation. I'm like, no, it's not. You do your research, your psychological facts. If somebody has something, or somebody loves something, you will protect that. That doesn't mean you're insecure. It just means that you don't want to lose it.
I like that, mate. I mean, me personally, I like to refer to healthy boundaries.
Correct, yeah, absolutely.
Healthy boundaries, and that's it. And communication. Again, communicate your healthy boundaries. And at the end of the day, it's one of those, you might not be with somebody compatible. Your boundaries might not overlay with theirs. And that's fine. But you've both got to stick to your healthy boundaries. As long as they align with your values, you can't compromise those, because that's where the issue comes along. Somebody
mentioned something to me. Well, they asked me a question, and I said, well, why is it obviously women always go for bad boys, or why does it like bad boys always go for bad girls? Vice versa, same thing. And I went, do you want my honest opinion? And I was like, well, yeah. And I went, because if they've come from a relationship which has really hurt them, so like, we'll use a woman for instance, so please don't think I'm being attacking you, but women go for bad boys, and it's like, why? And I go, because they want to fuck about, and they want to go out and get wrecked, and they want to do all the shit. Now, if they go for a bad boy, that bad boy is not going to pressure them to change, to be respectful, because that bad boy's a prick anyway. So he's going to go out, he's going to get drugged up, he's going to do coke, he's going to do all that. And you're only going for him because you know that you won't be held accountable for any of your actions, because it makes you feel more freedom. So you go for that bad boy. But at the end of the day, when it comes back to you and you've got like, I don't know, a higher body count and your life's falling apart, and you go, I wish I stayed with so-and-so, because the amount of times I've had women say, I wish I didn't obviously go with so-and-so and I stayed with you. And that's me. I've only ever had 7 relationships. Let me point out, I'm very, very picky about who I bring into my life, especially with my kids. But I've had women come back to me and go, I wish I never did that. I'm like, well, that's all right, because that was your choice. That's fine. But people make mistakes, but that bad boy image is just, it's a way to not be questioned. So like your bad behavior is just acceptable to that bad boy. So you want to be with that bad boy. That's all it's for. That's how I see it.
Enables your own shit behavior.
Correct. Yeah. And then you can't be punished for obviously a bad behavior, because it all comes down to Stoicism, femininity, respect, morals, dignity. And I always think, if you've got all that, you wouldn't be that person. And then, but obviously you go for the bad boy, it means you can just go, oh yeah, but I don't need to worry about that shit. I can just go do whatever I want. Let's go get off our head. And you won't be held accountable, except your parents were always going to be stood there looking down going, why the hell are you doing that? Yeah. So that's my theory. That's my theory on it.
No, I like that, mate. It's a good thinking point, to be fair, Carl. Yeah, absolutely.
As long as the thing is, I always want people, and this is why I will never push out religion on especially on anybody, but I believe in Stoicism. And I believe in masculinity, and I don't care what anybody says about that. Like, if somebody has a problem and says, "Oh well, that sounds a bit narcissistic," I'm a carer of my mum. Like, I have to look after her. I have my 2 kids 4 nights a week. I have massive respect for my ex-wife and a partner. Does that sound like somebody who's toxic, or who's like suffering, who's like a misogynist, or does it sound somebody who's actually follows the concept of God and a bit of religion and actually wants to be the man which we're meant to be, protect the people you love, work hard? Like, I would happily, literally happily, if I saw a woman outside getting into a fight, I know people say don't get involved in domestic. Sorry, if that looks like that woman's friend, I'm going to get involved. If I see it's one of the things, right? There's a story that happened in America where a gunman ran into a cinema, and literally, and this is defined definitively, he ran in and he started opening fire, and these three men dived on top of the women, and they got shot. The women survived, and the men died. And people are going to say Stoicism is bad or masculinity is bad. Nah, it's bullshit. It's a manipulation tactic again to try and demoralize.
I must admit, mate, that part of my studies, I studied evolutional psychology, and I really think that we as a species have lost touch of the fact that we're just an animal.
Yeah,
we are another. We think we're, you look around and go, oh, animals as cows, sheep, dogs, cats, birds, whatever. Like, yeah, but we're just another species on the planet, and by being just another species, we have traits. The same way that a cat will chase a bird, the same way, there are certain things that are in tune with our nature. And I think in a lot of ways, like that tag, that masculinity and the word toxic masculinity, which I hate that whole phrase, what that's done is made men particularly scared to want to do the things we want to do.
Correct.
Like me, like growing up, football, rugby, gym, I like physical challenges. I like lifting heavy things just to see if I can. Why? Because I'm a man. And I'm not scared to say that. There are certain things I want to do because I'm male and I'm a man that are in tune with my nature that a woman won't want to do. Me and my wife, we get on great, but we're very different people. She enjoys doing things she wants to do, and I enjoy doing things I want to do. Yeah. And at times, I believe it's like we're trying to, this whole crossover of like, as a man, you have to be in touch, like we were saying, you have to be in touch with your emotions. You have to, and at times, mate, it's like trying to tell a goldfish to climb a tree, but persecuting the goldfish for not being able to climb a tree.
Correct, absolutely.
There are things that are in line with our nature. It's fucking science. It's fact.
Yeah, absolutely.
And these days, a lot of the time we get persecuted for those things, particularly our culture, not necessarily other cultures are a lot more traditional. But yeah, there's something to be said, mate. I'm very much live and let live. Like, if a bloke wants to go and do whatever he wants to do, I do not give a shit as long as he's not hurting anyone.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
it. Carry on. But at the same time, if something feels natural to us, don't persecute for it. And stick a label on it.
Yeah. Well, this is like I say when you mentioned about frequencies. One of the self developments which I always mention to men who are trying to change. Like I always say, you need to pull away from the people, or explain to your good friends saying, look, I'm struggling, I'm at the risk of losing my relationship, so please, like, instead of obviously trying to guilt trip me into going out and getting wrecked, can you just be a little bit more supportive? Because I always say communication is key, but being honest is so important. Now, there's obviously these different brainwave frequencies, like I said, there's delta, there's theta, there's alpha, there's so many, but when people sort of like losing the mind and becoming more depressed, what they do is they're going into sort of a theta and a delta sort of brainwave frequency where it's a little bit negative and a little bit depressed, and it's not trying to obviously over hyper intensify what your thought process is. Like, I love being active and I punish myself, and like I said, the jobs I focus and I'm more undepressive, I'll say, when I am more hyper focused. So like doing obviously my jobs, doing my running, doing obviously my studying, helping people, that keeps me above drowning level. So like when people are saying to me like about how changing your process and changing obviously your perception, hypnosis is a really good one. When you're in the concept of just about falling asleep and you're in the theta brainwave frequency, and then you can literally start, like, because I have headphones on, so all the men out there, honestly, believe it or not, go to sleep with some headphones on, listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza, sleep hypnosis, confidence. I fall asleep with it, mate, and I never used to be able to sleep unless I was pissed. I couldn't sleep, and it was either pissed or I was on sleeping tablets. But now, put these headphones on, and I'm gone, literally gone, because I've learned And I've learned like I said at the beginning, you have to learn to love yourself 60% more than you actually put effort into anything else. So I've learned what's my ticks. I've learned how to obviously avoid certain people. It's taken a lot when it comes to it, because sometimes pulling away from somebody which you've known for a long, long time, but obviously you've asked them to try and obviously support you. You've asked them to try and forget, but instead of supporting it, they use emotional guilt. They use emotional manipulation. It's like, oh, mate, just come out, let's get pissed. Let's do this. Mate, I was an alcoholic. Why are you asking me to come into a pub? I'm struggling. I know if it's offered, literally, if you go, like now I'm okay, but say 3 years ago, if you would have gone, I know you're not drinking, Carl, but here's a pan, gives it you. I would have took it because I had no strength. So you have to subconsciously reaffirm and changing your personality over and over and over again. And that's how when people say but I just feel as if I'm fighting a losing battle. No, small, intricate, like sort of goals create what's called an emotional imprint, which obviously, and then on top of another one, on top of another one. But you've got to do this while you're dissecting trauma. So this is why it becomes, I just want to be here. I can't do it anymore. I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go see the lads. And it's like, no, listen, the one thing I want to say to everybody, and this is, you touched on obviously where we're genetically created, we are meant to be strong. We are meant to be providers. And the thing is, when I say, like, looking at these traumas, I've gone through fucking shitloads. But you know what? It has made me the man I am. And it has made me get to this point where I know I can look at somebody and go, do you know what, right? I know you have the ability and I have faith in you, because obviously you have got so much to offer, but you're losing yourself through the way society is, because you've split with your ex, because you've got trauma, your emotions, too much drugs, too much cortisol, and now you're feeling shit, you're unwell, and it's a cycle. I promise you, I promise. Let me give you this and this is what I'm always like, let me give you this program. Let me support you for 4 weeks and let me just like see if I can get you started. But once you learn this information, if it doesn't work for you, then all right, you can call me whatever you want. And I'll admit, obviously, I'm full of shit. But I know 100% the amount of people I've helped so far with everything, the dynamics of it, and especially the more knowledge I'm learning is massively helping people.
It makes it all worth it, mate, doesn't it?
Me helping people helps me.
Let's it was a great conversation.
Sorry.
No, we're good. Let's pull back, because I'm conscious we're drifting.
All right.
Let's pull back to you and just to get this full picture of sort of like your history. Army. The Army
16
days.
Air Defence Regiment, Royal Artillery.
How was that?
Well, because I was short and I looked like a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
I got bullied. Like,
how long were you in the Army for?
4.5 years.
Okay.
4.5 years. I did minimum service. I was forced in. Like I said, my granddad forced me into it. And people will say, well, how did he force you? Basically, he said, you're going in the Army, because if not, you're going to end up dead. Or you're going to end up in jail. So when I don't people going, yeah, well, he can't force you. You've got freedom. No. He was right. He forced me in, and it did do me good. But I walked into one of my mates, and out of respect, I was going to say can't really say. I'm not going to say his name because it's out of respect for his missus, because it was not long ago. But I walked into him hanging from obviously the drying room
in the Army.
In the Army, yeah. And that's and that was when I was based at Harrogate. It was the Army Foundation College, because you had to do that before you got into the Army. And I was literally 17, I think like 16, 17, and I walked into him hanging, and that I had to, the way I see it now, I literally just walked in and it just stopped struggling, because he was still red. And I grabbed him and I was like, fucking you get me again. And I grabbed him and I was holding on to him and I was screaming. And I was shouting his name. And I was hoping, because like I said, there was a few of my mates, they came in and literally helped me. They grabbed him, they got him down. Literally, my mate went to go get the NCO, and he came back, and obviously I didn't know first aid. I didn't know fuck all. I just know he's like, my mate's there, and he's got a belt around his neck, and he's fucking purple, and he's not moving, and my mate's trying to do CPR. We didn't have a clue. We was young kids. It was Army Foundation College, like 16, 17. There was like 10 people at one point just stood there, and I was just literally just stood, like knelt down next to his knees, just looking at my best mate. Took his own life. I didn't fucking notice.
I'm sorry, man. I could tell you went straight back there then as well.
And it angers me now, because Like now I know what to do. Now I know how to save some money. Now and that that fucked me up, man. That messed me up, because that's like initially going from obviously my auntie, obviously I found my girlfriend, and then my best mate, and then even that
Jesus Christ, guy.
I was not close to my mum, but I was talking to her, and I don't really want to go off tangent because that fucked me up and it is messing with me head a bit right now. But I was speaking to my mum one night, and I was telling her about it, and I was crying on the phone, and the next night I rang her, and literally she wasn't making no fucking sense, like no sense. And I was like, "Mum, what's going on?" Like, and she just literally put the phone down, and I could hear her moaning. And I blame myself for this. Just let me point out, like I tried ringing her. She left the phone. Well, obviously she was on the phone for about an hour, and I could just hear her moaning. And I went to the NCO, and he was like, "Oh, well, she sounds as if she might just be drunk." I was like, "No, she's not drunk. I know my mum. I was talking to her last night." And obviously, I was still emotional from what's just happened with my best mate. I said, "Can I go home?" And I was like, "We're trying to get you compassionate leave, but you not just yet. You have to wait. We have to wait until we see Sergeant Mean," and that was his name. And then the next thing, I just had a feeling about my mum, and I went AWOL, and I literally fucking jumped over the fence. I remember I went past the guard office, and I got a train. I went home, and I found my mum took an overdose of sleeping tablets and paracetamols, and she was literally laid. And I know it was only like within 24 hours, but she was like covered in piss and shit. And I think because she wasn't really a good, like, let's say she wasn't very emotionally in tune. She wasn't very good with her emotions. She never really knew how to handle me.
Yeah.
But I think me crying down the phone
Pushed her into that.
Yeah, I think that pushed her. And I had, obviously, when I got back, I rang my sister, like my brother's partner, and I had to carry my mum at the age of 17 up the stairs into a bath and bath my mum and ring an ambulance. And then I was sat there while my mum was yellow, like yellow with jaundice, and she was like, I don't know how it had happened, but she ended up spending a week in hospital. She took massive amounts of medication, and I was sat literally at the hospital bed, and fucking military police came in and took me away from my mum while I was.
They took
me away from my mum while she was there, while she was in hospital.
Mate.
So yes, I got took away while my mum was in hospital, and I got jailed for I think it was like 2.5 weeks, and I got beasted. So for me, not only did I just witness my mate dying, my mum tried to take her own life, and then I got jailed for fucking trying to cope with all this shit. So then when I say to people about it, and I'm like, listen, you have no fucking idea what suffering is. And it's like, well, I've gone through this, I've gone through that. Like, listen, I've had to bury so much shit.
And I probably know the answer to this, mate, but was there any support in the army for any of this that you'd gone through?
Not after I've been jailed, no. Because after that, I attempted suicide.
You did?
And then they kicked me out under medical discharge for instability.
So, I mean, first of all, it's not surprising, given your age and everything that had happened, all that trauma and that build-up of trauma, because you wouldn't have processed the first trauma, let alone everything else. For you to get to that stage, it's almost understandable. But then the result of that is you get booted out again with no more support.
Then one of the things that I've had to sort of like deal with, and this is why, like, even to this day, people always say to me like, "Oh, I want to be there for you," and I'm a big faith believer. Like, I never used to be. I was a massive atheist, but obviously something happened which changed my perception on it. But I've always been. I'd rather suffer in silence than express in volume, and like going through all my situations with obviously my ex-wife, and I never understood what was the cause, because I suppressed, and suppression leads to depression, and I suppressed so much, and
yeah, Christ.
and I got to a point, right, where I didn't care if I lived or I died. And I lived every single thing like it was just who gives a fuck. And I remember there was a pinnacle point, which I just want to just emphasize on this, where my kids, me and my ex, we were obviously, my first daughter, when she was born, like when she was pregnant, I was over the moon, because I was like, being a dad for me, man, was so important, especially like what happened on my 21st birthday. And when my daughter was born, I just want to quickly touch on this. I know it's going off a different thing,
fine,
but
mate,
it's got a reasoning behind it. So like, I'll go back to it. I literally was watching my daughter be born, and if you've ever witnessed this and you've seen your child come out,
yeah, I was there for my two.
yeah, I was stood there and I was watching like the girl's mother give birth, and I saw my daughter's head pop out, and I was like, it freaked me out, because obviously it does, and when she came out, like she was a little bit out of it, so they gave me my daughter, and I remember sitting there like on this chair like next to her. And I was happy, right? I was fucking buzzing, and because this love feeling that I had for this little thing, little child. But something just went in my head and went, "How come nobody loves you like that?" And literally, I sat back and I just burst into tears, because after everything I've gone through and I've suppressed everything, and you've mentioned it, you've touched on it about my support. I had none. Like, I fucking had none. Like, literally none. And when I sit there and I think to myself, like, why didn't I have it? And it does get to me. It gets to me now. Even though I've got loads of I've got loads of methods into it. Like, I think to myself, my dad, obviously, unbeknown, wasn't interested.
Yeah.
And even though like I was feral, and I was a bad kid. No matter how hard my kids was, if they was naughty, no matter how much they misbehaved, there was no way on this planet I would ever not love them. So me sitting there, not only did it make me realise what love was, because that was the first time I knew ultimately what love was, because it was a feeling I've never experienced. Yeah. But it also made me fucking think, why didn't nobody feel like that towards me, to the point of where I would die for them kids. I would literally sacrifice everything. So when I push everything now, I'm doing it for them. I'm not doing it for me. I know they will learn from my situation. I know they will watch this when they're older, and I just want them to know that because of them, I'm here. Because then one of the things I always say to people, and I want any man to get this in their head, is I used to say, if it weren't for my kids, I won't be here. Now, I don't say that anymore, because that's making my kids responsible for me living. So I say I'm here to fucking make sure that they don't suffer like I did.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest question, is like, why are you here? I'm here to make sure they ain't going to go through what I did.
It's a beautiful thing, mate. There's something I heard a while ago, and it hit with me. And it was what you said it there. You said you would die for your kids, but would you live for them?
That's
and
the
that,
most important.
you know, that applies to so many people that would say that, you know, I'd die for my kids. I'd I'd step in front of the bullet, but will you live for them? Will you look after yourself? You know, will you look after your body? Will you look after your mind? Will you be the best version of you that's available for your kids for the next 30 years? Will you make it, you know, anyone can step out of the door and get hit by a bus, unfortunately, shit happens. But will you give your kids the best possible chance of having that parent for the longest possible time? And to do that, you've got to look after yourself, prioritize yourself, and love yourself. So, you know, that really hit with me when I heard that said once.
It's one of the hardest. This is the thing, though. It's like in society right now, a lot of people have been so, I'll say, misconducted with the thoughts. They're not realizing, because you put down to Stoicism means you're being a respectable man. So being a respectable man means you've got to be looking after your kids. No, so being looking after your kids, you've got to be respectable and look after your wife or your partner. So if you take away Stoicism, you take away the concept of responsibility to being a parent. So I fully believe that the more feminism and like masculinity and narcissism is mentioned, and the more they take away the concepts of being moral, like having good stoic nature and having morality and dignity and respect, the more they pull away from that, the more we're going to let the kids run a fucking muck about anything. Because I think the next generation of kids, can you see the next generation of kids looking at, well, obviously your kids will look after you, but if you're looking at a dysfunctional family or a dysfunctional, obviously, I don't really want to call them or title them, but do you think that them kids are going to look after them parents when they're older?
Of course they're not.
They're not going to give a shit, because it's just going to be like, it's like, what is it, Gen Z? Gen Z, like, are you going to look after your parents? No, it's not for my job to do. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, you little scumbags. Honestly, like, I know, like, I know how my kids are, and I know, like, when I'm older, they're going to have my morals. And if anybody wants to call me a misogynist for giving my kids morals, go get fucked. They're my kids, and obviously they have their own they have their own personalities, and I will let them be them, but I will guard them to protect them, and I will make sure they don't suffer.
It's worth pointing out at this point, though, Carl. I think the massive majority of people will agree 100% with what you're saying. The problem is that the ones that will disagree and like to, that will throw those names out there like misogynist and narcissist and all that, they're a very small minority with a very loud voice.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to. So, but it's very easy to lose sight of the reality of the general public's opinion on things as well, because the only voices we hear these days are those extreme, that the outlying opinions, because they're the ones that get the traction. They get the social media coverage, they get the news coverage, they get the movements. The average person kind of just wants to get on with their fucking life. Do you know what I mean? And that we sat there, agreeing with you. And my demographic of listeners, most people are tradespeople or people surrounded by the trades. And I can guarantee most people are be listening to you and thinking, spot on, mate, spot on, spot on. And one of the things that we need to do is speak up on that and live that life verbally and proudly, and try and counterbalance that small demographic of voice that are outlying extreme opinions that seem to be dictating and dominating life these days.
Well, I have this. I'm going to quickly share the story with you before obviously going to any other subjects, because obviously I understand the concept of misguided delusion. And now that correlates with the correspondence of, obviously, there's 200 different forms of mental health conditions, and there's only one form of stupidity. Now, I had this conversation with a female on a podcast before where she was obviously affirming, obviously, there, in which, if you want to define that, you do that. Don't make me, like, obviously have to justify obviously what you see yourself as. So there's this story of a guy called Richard Frankfurt in France, and basically he was a serial killer and a rapist. I won't say the R word, but a rapist. And he was obsessed with this woman called Rachel, I think it was Selma or something like that. And basically in his head, he loved her and he wanted to be in a relationship with her. And obviously she should have been in a relationship with him. So she contacted the police, and literally, obviously, she moved away, but he managed to track her down through social media, and he broke into her house and he sexually assaulted her and massacred her, like literally massacred her. And when I was on this podcast, I said to this young lass, I went, so do you think that then, that this Rachel should have affirmed that relationship with this guy called Richard? She went, well, obviously not. I went, so why are you expecting me to reaffirm that obviously you're there, them, and all this obviously misperceptions? Because if I affirm your delusion, then she should have affirmed his delusion, because that's all it is. It's a perception. It's a delusion. If you think you're multiple people, that's fine. But you don't expect me to affirm to it, because I'm not stupid. And that goes on the correlation of obviously the way society is structured. Obviously, I'll say discombobulating, because people ain't got common sense anymore. And like you just said, which I agree completely, people with the most stupid opinions, and they act out the most erratically. Well, I've seen it on podcasts where people are just screaming and like, I'm going to come into court, and they're just like screaming and not actually making any psychological or principle actual points about what they're talking about. They just act like animals. How can you get a wedding with people like that?
You can't. And again, disagreements are fine. Opinions are opinions. Everyone's got one. But, and this is one of the things where I think conversation and debate is dying now. Yeah. You're not allowed to have multiple opinions in the room. It's got to be one opinion, one narrative. And that's the problem. I mean, you look into schools, do you know what, Carl? We won't even go there, mate, because I can talk to you for hours about the school system. But yeah, it's frightening. It is frightening for the kids. I mean, my daughter's 11, so my son's just turned 17. But my daughter's 11, and, I'll touch on this, mate. She's got 2 furries in her year, which are kids that identify as furry animals. Yeah.
What?
Have you not heard this?
No.
Yeah. So there's 2 pupils in my daughter's year at school, and they are furries, and they identify as it's either a furry animal or a teddy bear.
So what toilet do they use?
The school have to accommodate this.
Now, do you think that's not a brain condition?
I do. I think it's one of 2 things, mate. I think it's either a mental health condition,
Correct,
or it's a shout for attention, because the kids, they see this. They see this online. Oh, you can be whatever you want to be, darling. You know, well, okay, well, I'm a teddy bear now then.
Yeah.
And then the madness then is that you go to school and they do affirm it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, okay, we'll give special provisions for a teddy bear child.
The thing is, right, what I'm gonna be bold and say this, right? If your children are walking around with that misperception of they can be that, you're a shitty parent. I'm sorry, like I'm gonna say it, and like whether people attack me for that or not. Like if my child came up to me and went, "Daddy, I feel like a cat box. Do I have a shit in that then?" He's like, "Oh, what do you mean? You can't do that. It's abuse." Well, you think you're a fucking cat? Go have a shit in the cat box. And when you eat your food, you're having it down there, and I guess what you're having for tea? Cat meat. Go on then, dopey. You want to be stupid. People might say, "Oh, it's a bit brutal." No, I'm not. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to affirm stupidity, and I'm not going to affirm delusions, because I will happily say, "Where did you get that from?" "Oh, well, I saw it on a TikTok." So
Exactly.
that's it. So TikTok's gone then.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean? TikTok's gone. If you watch something and now you're going to portray that stupidity by watching that, you're not doing it. You're not watching that, and so it's down to the parents.
The parents. And the schools as well, mate.
Oh, schools
I mean,
are bad.
the enabling of it. I mean, the thing is, kids are kids, yeah? And kids' role play is a massive part of childhood. You know, when I was a kid, it was cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians. I was not a cop, I was not a robber, I was not a cowboy, I was not an Indian.
Yeah.
But we played it. But the difference now between, like, playing... So you want to pretend to be a cat, that's cool, that's healthy. Carry on. Yeah. Go pretend to be a cat for half an hour. But you can't identify as it. You can't walk around. And the worst part, mate, the worst part for me on this is they then tell the other kids they have to respect that. So the child that identifies as a furry cannot be discriminated against by the other children telling them they're not.
Because that'll be classed as bullying. The thing is, all right, me personally, and there's this incident that's just happened in America where there was this transgender kid literally threatened these pupils. And it's all over the news right now. And he literally put like a threat list out. And this young girl went to the teacher and said, "Look, I'm afraid he's threatening me." And literally during dinner, this transgender came with a trophy, smashed the skull in of this young girl, and now she's in critical condition in hospital. It's on the news today. I was listening to it as I was coming up here. Literally, she's in hospital, and like the child actually told the teacher, and they said, "Oh no, what happened?" So me in my head, I'm thinking, so wait a minute, that young child who was confused, obviously, about the gender, has been affirmed. Obviously, it's okay to be that way, and literally, you've warned them about it, and that child has now absolutely like destroyed this poor kid's head. And you're not going, and you're going to sit there and say to me, "Yeah, but she's just a bit confused." No, she's literally ran up and smashed somebody over the head. And would your child do that?
No,
my child wouldn't do that. Why?
Yeah.
Because there's something wrong with that child. Then clearly there's something wrong with it. And it's like, well, I'm sorry for calling it him or she. I don't want to get punished for that because they are still human. But yeah, so that's not good behavior. So if you see like there's something going on. Like if my daughters ever came to me and started saying stuff like that, like obviously I'm training, obviously counsellor anyway, I will make sure I scrub that out instantaneously. But if you're a parent and you see that and you just go, "Yeah, but I'm just letting them express themselves," no, you're a bad parent. Yeah, you're a bad parent. You don't really. If you truly cared about your kid, you would stop that. I
agree with you, mate. Yeah, I agree with you on record, mate. I agree.
I did something the other day, right, and it's and I shouldn't really mention this, but I do. I like to create like a situational behavior. Like there was this child, obviously in Aldi, and she was sat on the fingers, and this young mum was like, "Come on, get up." And obviously, I like to help out parents because I love helping parents. And I went, "Eva," and Eva's my 7-year-old. She's ace, so obviously she's like a little genius. I went, "Eva, go sit next to that little girl." And obviously, and she went, "Why did I?" I said, "Go sit next to the little girl. I'm going to ask you to get up, and I'm going to bring it." So obviously, she went and sat next to her, and I went up and I went, "Eva," I said, "You sat down there." I said, "What do you think you're going to lose?" And she was like, And I went, "You're going to lose your pocket money. You're going to lose, obviously, your normal food. You're not going to have any snacks, and you're going to bed early. So you're going to get up." And she was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get up." As soon as she got up, that other kid just got up. and went straight to her mum. I was like, come on then. And then obviously as I was walking away, I just like sort of like, and the mum was like, thank you. So I'm like, because it's easy. It's easy to use an example of not obedience as in like, I'm going to whip you, but just showing the concept of just how to handle situations. Now, sitting there going, oh yeah, but it's not going to work. And that's not good enough for me. I'm like, I'm sorry. My kids are so well respected. They respect the mum, they respect me. And it's just by using common sense. So I'm a big believer in that. And I know we've gone off a few topics and I do apologise, but
Mate,
I'm hoping.
They're good topics, mate.
Yeah.
It's all of interest. And that's why I say with these conversations, it's conversation, mate, and conversations do go off. And that's what personally I love that.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it more relatable. And I've never done a podcast episode with a guest where I've sat there with a list of questions and gone, right, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, but whatever comes out, mate.
Well, the thing is, as long as I can get the point across, obviously, with all tradesmen are going through very similarities, especially with obviously addictions, stress, depression. But I just want to emphasize that if I was 17 stone 6 and like now I'm running around that.
You were 17.6?
17 stone 6. But I'll send you a picture so you can put it on there so you can show people. Like, and I was literally overweight, big, massive fat head. And I never used to run. I never used to do anything like that. But then in the last 5 years, 5 coming on to 6 years, like I've said, I've touched at the beginning, not only am I coming up to being mortgage free in the next month, obviously, which is very hard. But obviously I work very, very hard. But I've managed, like I said, 9 diplomas in psychology, 3 in depression counselling, life coaching diploma, and I've changed everything about me. I also ran the Equinox, which is a 24-hour running event. Never used to be a runner. I ran 88 miles in 24 hours.
88 miles. What's the marathon? 24?
26. It was
that like three
marathons, 3 back-to-back marathons in 24 hours.
Jesus Christ.
I've also did from my Andy's Man Club. I ran from Scarborough to Hull, but I did an elongate because it was like a practice for because it was an 100-mile attempt I wanted to do, and I did 72 miles, and then I ran from York to Hull, which was about 48 miles, and then I did Grimsby to Hull, which was about 43 miles. So like when people say to me, it's like, oh, like, how have we managed to do it? It's like, because now I fundamentally know how strong and capable I am, because it's all theory. And it's not a theory, actually. It's actually was done where they put a flea can jump up to 36 inches. But if you put like fleas in a jar and you close the jar for a week and then you open the jar, the fleas have been now brainwashed, so they can't jump out the jar. But they have so much potential to jump higher. So I believe society is a sort of deconstructed our mental health to the point of where we don't feel we can do shit. When I can honestly say to you, I left school with no grades. And this is to everybody. I left school with no grades. Like, I've gone through the depression. I've gone through the trauma. But I can fundamentally say, if you truly believe in you and put effort into you, I know 100% that you can be anything. And I don't mean a cat. I don't mean a teddy bear. I don't mean one of them. I'm on about, if you feel you can't control your depression, you can. If you feel you can't.
Well, mate, I know one thing from listening to your interview with Dapper. You're a big Goggins fan, aren't you?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. So I've read the book, mate. I've listened to the book that Can't Hurt Me. I mean, that geezer, but he hits it, doesn't he? The 40%. You're only ever at 40%.
Yeah, the governor. The governor. To be honest, he signed my leg. I've got it tattooed on my leg.
I remember you saying.
I've got it. Like literally, it's just.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So David Goggins signed my leg.
The camera can pick that. Well, get yourself on camera there, mate. No way.
I've got the picture. I'll send you the picture as well.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
But the thing is, again, it's like I was never into, obviously, like following celebrities or anything like that. But then, like, somebody said to me, like, what do you truly believe in now? Then, like I said, I'm very because I know how amazing the body is and how dynamic we can change everything from our perception, the way we see things. Like, anything we want to do, as long as we focus on it, then it makes us realize how special we are. Now, I don't want to go into too in depth of it, but the human body's got 32.7 trillion cells, and each cell has got 1.4 volts of electricity, microvolts of electricity. So that means there's like 700 trillion volts of microelectricity going through every body. Obviously, there's a vagus nerve. Even our brains are so like deep special. People don't know this, but our eyes actually see upside down, but our brain's dynamically clever. It turns it so we're seeing the right way up.
Okay.
So there's so much. So the reason why I'm just quickly mentioning this is because when you start to go into this self-healing journey and you start to obviously start looking into yourself and like with friends and you go on these walks and you start doing this like cold water therapy and you're doing all this and you just study. One of the things that I've come to realize is that knowledge is not just power. Wisdom is power. because you can know everything and you can read things. And like I say, you have you can study it, you can create new pathways to obviously create thoughts and feelings to make you feel that abundantly better. But what I do know is when you have this amount of knowledge, and then you can sort of like, why am I feeling this way? Oh, it's because I did this. Oh, it's because that's affected me a little bit. Yeah, but I've got that to worry about. And then it's like, no, Carl, you've got this. Like, well, I say this to myself. Obviously, don't be saying my name in your dreams or in your head. It'll be a bit weird. But I always go, Carl, no, come on, man. You've got this. Now, the reasons why I always say that is because I know if I focus on the shit, ultimately, it's going to make me feel like shit. And I just quickly I put onto this before, obviously, because I know we're coming close now. I always,
there's other than what your own time limits, there is no time limit.
Right, that's all right. Yeah. Well, I always say to people, it's like every single day when you wake up in the morning, you basically, you have a perception of life and a prediction of life. And what I mean is like you have a routine. Everybody gets into a routine. Monday, oh, I hate Mondays. Tuesdays, oh God. Wednesdays, oh yeah, we're going downhill. Thursdays, yeah, tomorrow's Friday. And we have this dynamic of perception. Now, I always like to say to people, like, I'm always happy with a day that ends in Y. And it's like, I'm like, that's every day. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because I'm glad. Because 150,000 people die in their sleep per day in the world. I said, just naturally die. So I said, when I wake up, I've got my running trainers on. And I said, I can sit there and go, oh God, it's fucking Monday. And I can sit there and do that. But then once you do that, you're perceiving. So your thoughts create feelings. So thoughts create feelings and feelings create actions. So if you sit there in the morning, you wake up and say, oh, fucking hell, Monday, I can't believe it. And then straight away, it's like, oh, your body's now going to start going, Monday. And then obviously your reactions of getting out of bed, it's like, oh God, I'm going to go put a kettle on, I've got to do this, brush your teeth. You have that frame of mind. You've already put yourself in that negative frame of mind. So for me, when I wake up, I'm just like, yeah, fucking hell, I've got to go for a run. And it's like straight away, and it's a perceptual change. I put my phone on the other side. So like my phone, when my alarm goes off, because what we all do is toxic as shit. We pick up our phone and we scroll through TikTok scroll through Facebook. Let's see what's going on with the world. And then we get into that. It's like, oh, bollocks, we're late. So now we're late. Now we're rushing. So my phone's on the other side of the room. So this is good advice to any man or any woman. I basically, as soon as my alarm goes off, I'm quickly go over, turn my alarm off, and I've got a little note just in a frame, and it says, go make yourself a coffee after you turn your computer on. So I'm like, bollocks. So like I turn my computer on, run downstairs, make a coffee, come back up, start getting dressed. I'll do my 30 minutes revision to an hour's revision. And then as soon as that, obviously I've got that point, and then I'll go for my 6 miles run. I'll do my ice bath, and then I go to work. And people say, why do you do all that before you go to work? I'm like, if I'm not going to put effort into myself, who is? Who's going to do it?
We always, this is it, isn't it, mate? We always put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. I recently, so hands up, admittedly, so up until Christmas, I was training well. I was in the gym 4 or 5 times a week and living relatively healthy. Since starting the podcast, I've swapped out my training time for doing this.
Yeah.
So like the editing, the managing, and all the rest of it. And it dawned on me, I've put a load of weight on, mate. So I'm heavier now than I normally am. And I've just signed up to a coach, a PT to, I know how to train, mate. My nutrition's crap. Actually, shout out to Joe, the tradesman's coach, who I've just signed up with his plan.
Nice.
But the reason I've done that, mate, is to keep myself accountable. And it's not cheap. Like, to be fair, his plan as well, I've just started getting into it. It's really good, very comprehensive. The app he uses, bang on, it's all very well tracked. He's messaging me every day. So he's keeping me accountable, which at the moment I need. But it was framing it in my mind. So last year I didn't even think twice at going and spending $2,500 on a new dustless sanding system because it's going to be easier for my shoulder. You know, it'll help my body and all the rest of it. And it's better for my health and all the rest. Didn't even think twice because it's a tool.
Yeah.
But when I look at it and I go, well, hold on, 1,500 quid for a 6-month coaching plan. No, that's too much. Do you know what I mean? Well, hold on. If my body breaks down or I'm in shit condition, I can't even use the tools I'm buying. But I'll happily spend double that on a tool. But will I invest that in myself?
That's the craziest thing, though,
isn't it?
It's the craziest thing.
And I had to have that moment where I sat there because I did, and I got Joe, and we had the conversation, we talked about it, and I did think straight away, I was like, that's a lot of money. And then when I framed it, and I thought, but you'd spend that in a heartbeat on your business.
Yeah, exactly.
And I am the most integral part of my business. Why would I not spend that on myself? So that's what I've done now. But it is like breaking that perception of self-care.
Yeah.
We always do sacrifice ourselves. We put the most important thing last. And it sounds a bit like, oh, is that ego? Is it selfishness? It's not. It genuinely isn't. To put yourself first is not selfish.
Absolutely not. When somebody says that, because obviously I've had so many arguments, oh, you're so selfish. I'm like, what? So putting myself first is selfish? Well, thanks. I'll agree to that one. It's like, because putting myself first is a change, because I always put everybody first.
Yeah.
So it's like, what you say is like, some people they don't get upset. But like when I say, no, I can't do that. It's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, because I've learned to say no, because the power of no to you is saying yes to me. So it's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you want me to go do that. My business partner gets frustrated as fuck. So Lee, sorry, I say no to you because it's self-care. So if you see this. And when he says like something, I'm like, no, mate, I'm busy. And it's like, yeah, but we need to do this. I'm like, nah, me, mate. I'm like, if I'm not with my kids and I'm having me time, it's like I go for walks, I go for runs, I go places on my own, I go for meals on my own, I've been on holiday on my own. And people go like, how do you do it? And one of the fundamental things, because I know a lot of tradesmen will say this, because my best mate actually tries to do me over with this one, and he called me, I see you next Tuesday, because I was sat having a meal, and he rang me and he said, he went, where are you? I said, I'm just in Barista having something to eat. He went, you on your own? I went, yeah, why? He went, you sad CUNT.
Yeah.
And I went, mate, I said, is it sad that I'm here on my own, eating, feeling confident and strong enough, or is it sad that you would need somebody to hold your hand to come in here and have something to eat because you're not a big boy? And he just went, oh, mate, it is the problem. I'm like, no, well, respectably, who's right? I said, I'm not sad. I don't need nobody. But you need somebody. Do you want me to go for food with you, mate? Will that make you feel more comfortable and secure in your body? I'll go for food with you then. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I said, if you can do things on your own and you get to that point of self-care and you're spending money on yourself, don't ever be like sort of apprehensive to focus on any sort of financial stuff on you. Like I buy Brooks trainers and they go after 500 miles. Their soles collapse. I buy a new pair of trainers every 6 weeks. And it's like, what? I'm like, yeah, under 140 quid. So like I spend 140 quid every 6 weeks on a new pair of trainers. Why? Because your feet are important for your shins, and your shins are important for your knees, and your knees are important for your hips, and your hips are important for your body. So why wouldn't I spend it? Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, I never thought of that. So, yeah, well, that's the thing is, when you don't think about yourself, you don't think.
We do though, don't we? And particularly tradespeople, and I think this is one of the factors when it comes to the high rates of male suicide within the trades. It's that there's nobody stopping us in terms of the pressure, like that I would feel I need to support my family. So, but there's nobody checking in on me. So I can go and do a 14, 16-hour day. I could put in 80 to 100 hours of the week. There's no HR department saying to me, Russ, you're doing a lot of hours here, mate. Are you okay? Calm it down. Like, how are you feeling? Or do you know what, mate? You're looking a bit burnt out. There's no limit to it. And quite often we will do that. We will just work and work and work to the bone. And I've had all these little moments through life where, you know, I used to do stuff like I'd wear my old knackered, worn out trainers to work because they're knackered and worn out. And then my feet would hurt. And then I'd be like, well, it's no wonder really. Like the trainers are worn out. And actually, where are you most? So do you know what? Now I'll go and buy, like Jamie Redknapp would love it. I go and buy Skechers because they got the, you know, the support, the arch support. That's it.
I'm flat-footed as well.
So yeah, I'll get the arch support trainers, and I'm spending like whatever 80, 90 quid for a pair of trainers. My missus said to me, she's like, to wear to work. I'm like, that is where I am the most. So yeah, they're going to get paint on them, they're going to get shit on them, but that's what's on my feet for the majority of the time. Yeah, I'll buy a nice pair of trainers to wear out for a meal. I'll have them on for an hour. And then they're off as soon as I walk in the door. But it's working out that, looking after yourself and where to invest your money to actually better help yourself.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I always, and my business partner used to be really different, but like now he's so caring, so understanding, because he always used to be focused on driven, like on money and stuff like that. And I always say, listen to me, when instead of actually just constantly focusing on work and then constantly focusing on other stuff, just think of this. And he's like, well, I'm like, you could be dead tomorrow.
Yeah. You
could be dead tomorrow. Because it was last year I said I lost like say 4 mates. Like, and I've had people who I know who've had heart attacks from myocarditis. You could be dead tomorrow, right? And you're stressing over this piece of shit. Stop. And he's like, yeah, you're right, bro. I'm like, you don't need to tell me I'm right because I know I am. I said, because I've changed, and ultimately like I said, I just sit in just like on a night and I just like literally ask myself that question, which I hope you do try. I wonder what my next thought's going to be.
I'm going to try it, mate. 100% I'm going to try it.
And it's just like you're sitting there and it's like, I wonder what it's going to be. I wonder really what it's going to be. And then you've sat there for 5 minutes trying to think about what your next thought's going to be. But it is, you're thinking of the next thought, but the thought's never coming. It's so weird, so dynamic in the mind. But again, obviously I know we'll be coming to a close, but I just want to point out to everybody who's in the trade, and obviously they can reach out to you. But I do have obviously my my platform. I am a motivational therapist. I don't charge. So like I've mentioned this to you, I don't charge for any advice or any obviously support. Obviously to do life coaching plans at the minute, I ain't got a website built up yet, but it's in the process where I can send a life coaching plan out and do it over the website.
Man. That's coming.
100%, 100% is coming. But what I am doing is I don't mind speaking and listening to anybody. So if there is any men out there that are struggling and you want to just express yourself, you can find me I'm verified on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok, but TikTok is just embarrassingly stupid with messages. Or my personal account, which is Carl Crowley, EC Gas.
Carl, I mean, as I always do, I'll put all your details on the episode description anyway. So wherever you're listening to this, if you look in the description, you'll find a link to Carl's socials, so you can reach out to him 100%. There is one thing I do want to cover before we do wrap things up. Very prevalent thing at the moment, very big focus for tradespeople is van theft, tool theft. And there's a petition that somebody in the trades is putting through at the moment, trying to get 100,000 signatures. In fact, I'll put the link to that on the description as well. Anyone who's listening who hasn't signed it, go sign it. Trying to make it law to make it illegal to resale stolen tools at places like car boots. Not law to stop you reselling them, but like car boots, and because that's what's happened, mate. You go to these car boots and you'll have a chap stood there with like 100 Makita drills. Like, oh yeah, I've just cleaned out my garage, mate. All right, okay, we all know where they've come from. But I know, given that subject, that's why I talk to you. You've had your own personal experience.
I was just about to mention it. But I'm going to mention it in two dynamics. So, obviously, what happened? I was drunk. Literally, I had a lasso I was seeing in my house at the time, and obviously I heard some noise. Obviously, I was getting real paranoid. Obviously, I was off my head. She went, and then literally, like I think it was about 2 hours later, there was banging on my van, and I ran outside in a pair of boxers, and I jumped on this kid. Obviously, fell on the floor. I had a little bit of a tussle, but he stabbed me through like in the hand.
Oh shit!
Literally stabbed me in the hand, and I don't know if you can see on the back of my head, I've got a scar. His mate literally ran and hit me over the head with a crowbar, which obviously they was going to use to break into my van. They thought they'd killed me because I was laid there for 20 minutes. They literally ran off. They came back and they carried me and threw me in the ditch around the corner. Well, it's literally you go around the park of man, and then there's like a delve or a ditch, and it's just covered in bushes. They threw me in there. So not only was that like a fucking severe...
Why did they throw you in the ditch?
Because they thought they'd kill me. I was laid there for 20 minutes and didn't move. Literally, I've got photos, obviously, some of the people, but nobody got caught from it because apparently, I don't really want to say it because I don't know. Apparently, some people was working on the fair because it was a local fair.
Right.
And that's what the police said they put it down to, because there's nobody in the description, or like they went through my video evidence, and they went through obviously shop video evidence where they were seen walking towards my area, and then from that point there was nowhere to be seen. So they believe that there was from... Did
somebody find you, or did you come to?
I came to. But you know, when I mentioned earlier on, like where my sort of faith has changed. Like I remember waking up to a voice, and I don't want to sound like a crazy person. I remember waking up to a voice, and whether it was my granddad or anything, saying, "Carl, you need to get up." And from that point, that's where my life changed. Because after that bang to the head, and that nearly killed me. I was in hospital for a week with no visitors.
Christ.
And
I mean, obviously severe concussion, but if they've smashed you over the back of the head with a crowbar,
I was partially blind in my right eye for about 6 weeks after.
They fractured the skull or anything?
No, I had it was a rear, what was it? Cranium swelling, rear cranium swelling. So it was like I had a massive like bulge on the back of my head, and they were saying it was just water, but I had to stay in for a week to obviously keep an eye on me. And I had 2 operations on my hand because they cut the ligaments, and obviously they had a massive surgery on my head to
cut
everything.
Slice you or go through that?
No, not all the way through. Sliced it. It was a Stanley knife. So literally sliced. So as I was like that, like sort of choking him out, he's tried and he just sliced my hand. I didn't even feel it at the time because I was pissed. So the thing is, what I want to point out, we're obviously mentioning that, obviously it was a shitty situation which I went through, which I'm not happy about, and it's a learning lesson. But the thing is, lads, and this is anyone who, if there's more than one, I know you want to protect your van, but that's what insurance is for.
Yeah.
So trust me, like I know the prevalence when it comes to, obviously you don't want your van to be broken into, but take it from a person who nearly died from it. Like if you see multiple people trying to break into your van and you're on your own, please don't fucking go out.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, these people, you could attack them and they press charges on you and you go to jail for protecting your van. So just like I say, if you can't scare them off, don't come into conflicts, just because they're not there to obviously have a tickling contest. They're there to steal your shit. So they're going to hurt you to steal that shit. So
there's never just one, mate.
No, never.
I've seen many videos now where that's CCTV or whatever of the van thefts, and particularly a particular make of van is very easy to get into. I don't know what
Dispatch.
No, the transits, mate.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah,
I
don't know what tool they use, man, but it's like seconds. So it's they smash a hole in the, I think it's a door lock mechanism. They're in. They've took everything and they've gone. But generally, the videos I've seen, it's like it'll be an estate car or a car with 4 or 5 lads in, and they're in. They pile everything out, and it's over in a minute or so. And they'll do multiple vans, but you do then see the odd person that does try and stop it.
Yeah.
And like you said, you're dealing with criminals that are tooled up. So
the thing is, a criminal mind is not somebody that's going to obviously stop until they get what they want.
No.
Because the thing is, how I always say it is, if they've got the brass balls to obviously go in and break into somebody and steal somebody's stuff, do you think they ain't afraid to hurt you? Look what happened to me.
Yeah.
I genuinely nearly died, and if it wasn't for that though, and this is why I'm going to say grateful. So if they do see this and you remember beating me up and throwing me in a ditch, I'm going to say thanks. I appreciate that, and I know a lot of people are like, well, why would you say that? It's because that bang to the head made me realise that I could have been dead. And like I could have, my kids would have been
massively lucky. Yeah.
And the thing is on now, and this is like ultimately the way my life's going with doing podcasts and the way I'm like progressing, and obviously the sort of social stature that I've got on social media, is every single thing that I've gone through and in the past as trauma has led me up to this position where I can help so many people. So do you know what the dynamic of it is? I'm grateful. I might be suffering still inside. I might have my own little, obviously, things I've still got to deal with. But as long as I can help people and as long as I can influence people and make people see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, then punish me more. It's an
incredible attitude to have, mate. It really is. I mean, I guess, just to wrap up on the tool theft side of things. So the lads that did it were never found. This is the only other thing I was interested in. What was the police response to it?
There was a news, it was put out on the news. There was, obviously I was in the paper. It was put out on the news. The descriptions, obviously, because I gave identification and they had obviously small pictures. The police was fairly supportive, but irrespectively, I've still got some of the photos. Actually, I've still got the police officer's telephone number because I've kept the photos. Because it was like, oh, you can put a claim in if you want. You can do this. I was like, I don't need a claim.
I guess then their response with you was obviously because it was. I mean, mate, that's attempted murder.
I know it is.
That's what that is.
Yeah. It was in the news. It was on the paper. It was in the paper. It was on the news, and like it was all over social media. Like I'll send you the photos, but I don't think you'll be able to upload them on Facebook. Definitely not. But I'll show you. Like I had a massive gash and a massive thing on the back of me. I'll send you them all tonight, so you can have a look at it, and you'll be like, "Fuck, how did you still have that?" And I'm like,
it's horrific,
I don't know.
Mate. And this is the problem, though, isn't it? Because and the worst part about that is they did that to you. Did they get in your van?
No.
So they didn't even get anything. But if they had of, they could probably make a couple £100 out of the tools, because the retail second-hand's next to nothing. So they're doing all these crimes for peanuts. And it's the likes of having that resale capacity where obviously it's virtually organised crime, because it seems to be that one man in a van's turning up at a car boot with hundreds and thousands of power tools, which retail value would be, tens and tens of thousands, but they're selling them on a car boot for peanuts. That's what needs to stop. If you stop the demand, then you're going to stop the thefts, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, these kind of people will probably move on to something else, but...
Well, I'd like to say to tradesmen, if you ever see anything like that, then obviously just approach them. Just like if I go on a market and I see power tools, I'm ringing the police, mate. Because can you prove that you've got them from somewhere then? Can you prove that you've got receipts from? Because they might say, oh yeah, well the man. It's like, well, funny enough, I've seen you for the last 3 weeks when you've all got different tools. No, they're not. But again, any other tradesman, don't buy them. Just don't buy them.
Yeah.
Because you're giving them the desired need to steal them.
Yeah.
So it's like I say, it's cause and effect. So like if I know you might want to drill, you can go to Screwfix. I've got the full DeWalt set, and I know people might attack me for the DeWalt. I don't know, because my mate's obviously he's into there's McKean and there's that other one I can't remember.
I don't think there's any problem. Yeah,
Milwaukee. My mate, he loves Milwaukee. Honestly, he's all over it. He's like, oh, Milwaukee pump, and I'm like, well, I've got DeWalt. I'm a DeWalt man. But the thing is, though, you can get all the stuff from Screwfix for like less than, I don't know, 600 quid. And then you get like the grinder, the torch, obviously you get the recip saw, you get the heavy duty drills, you get the 2 small drills. So just don't buy stolen stuff, don't buy secondhand stuff, just buy it new, and then you've got the receipts, and not only that, then you've got the warranty.
It's a valid point, mate. It is a valid point. Stop the sales, but ban the sales, but also stop buying it. Yeah.
The thing is, it's like if you say I love this concept where I always say, like, if you stop buying it, then they're not going to try and sell it. That's the whole point. You can do this with anything. Like if anybody wanted to like sort of crush the concept of like even McDonald's, don't go buy it and watch them go under. You can do it. It's like you can go onto the government. You don't want the government to be in power. Just don't get involved with them. Don't vote. We could easily all stop. Let's just stop paying tax. And what they're going to do? They're going to come and arrest us all.
Yeah.
Power with numbers. So if tradesmen, don't buy the tools. Don't buy the tools. Just stick to, obviously,
well said, man.
Sign the petition. Don't buy the tools, and obviously report people who are selling them. Simple as that. Because if not, you could be like me, led in a ditch.
Oh, yeah. I think that's that's why I wanted to mention it, mate. It's a very powerful message, because I know myself, my own reaction would probably be run out, do exactly what you did, and look what happened to you. So it just is not worth it, is it? Even for, if you've got 10 grand's worth of tools, it ain't worth your life.
That's what insurance is for, mate. If you haven't got insurance and you live that life, then obviously, and you want to take that risk, then obviously remember it's at your own cause. But I wouldn't risk it. No. Not again. Like, not even now. Like, I'll throw my keys out the window. I'll just take the van. It's like, honestly, I want to live. I want to live my life, because like now, fundamentally, my life is like peaceful. No stress. I don't get involved with anybody with negative. Don't get involved with drinking, drugs, or anything. And my life is fundamentally so much better.
Tell me then, Carl, because I'm interested, mate. Cliche thing, but 5-year plan. Where you heading? What you doing?
5 years, right? Well, I've got 2.5 years until I've got my degree. Obviously, I'm already in the process of building a website for self-care and motivation, and obviously doing programs for people, which I want to be able to do online. But I don't want people to pay for the programs, but I want obviously like sponsors to obviously sponsor it. So then I'll be able to, but then they'll get advertised, and I'll be able to give all these people who suffer from mental health these programs for free. But ultimately, like I've said, I see myself doing similar stuff to you. I've been doing a podcast, obviously collaborating with you as much as possible, collaborating with other people, helping people out, because one of the things I've learned is that the purest thing in life, in this world, is having a greater understanding of what empathy is. And empathy could be correlated with feelings, and feelings is a true dynamic for me of life. Because I know emotions are real, I know love is real, I know thoughts are real, and again, thoughts, feelings, actions. And I want to truly help people understand how special they are. So in 5 years' time, I believe I'm going to hopefully, no, there's no hopefully, I am going to have a bigger following than what I've got. I am going to be helping people, and I am going to change the way I see things in a more understanding way, to be able to express it for people from the higher class to the middle class to the lower class, to be able to relate with my ability to speak. That's what I say.
Right. Well, first of all, I mean, all the luck in the world from my end. You'd be great on a podcast, mate. You'd be a great host. You're going to smash it, mate. Everything that you're doing is coming, it's building the momentum for where you're going, isn't it? Massive credit to you for all the education as well. I mean, I don't know about you, but like when I went through the education that I've gone through in terms of studying psychology, that was self-therapy for me.
Yeah.
That was how I helped myself. I helped understand myself, my thought processes, how my own brain worked. Have you found similar?
Yeah, correct. And this is why, like, when I started learning about like CPD and obviously different variations of obviously attention deficit disorders and stuff like that, the more I learned about it, it was like discovering who I am. So like when you learn about, it's all right learning about the concepts of psychology and the concepts of bodily behaviors, but then like I've read like Richard Selmer, he's done like different books on like dark psychology, neurology, NPD, body language reading, and I've I've done a course with Jordan Peterson, like obviously an online course, not a personal course, and like I said, I've done a 10,000 study on Dr. Joe Dispenza, 6,000 word study on Dr. Bruce Lipton, all people who study epigenetics, neurolinguistics, neurology, and what I've learned through everything is that not only am I more of an energetic spiritual person, where I now believe manifestation and meditation is so key and fundamental for you as a person, but it's one of the key factors which people have been led away from. So I always think to myself, and we could go on a different tangent here, is why are we led to believe that we're insignificant? Because you go to school and you're learning about the Vikings and you're learning about phonics and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, well, what about the body? Like, what about the mind?
Oh, mate, yeah.
Honestly, we could go down a different tangent with that.
To me, all day long, mate, psychology should be a core subject, just as important, more important than maths and English. Because if you haven't got control of that, you have nothing. You know, your whole reality, your whole existence depends on your mind and your mindset. Your whole reality is in your mind. I mean, even people that are suffering with psychosis and they live in an alternate reality in their mind, that is their reality. That is real to them.
100%.
So, you know, what is more important than that?
Yeah, well, people suffer with this, especially society at the moment, and they suffer with what's called cognitive dissonance and cognitive coherence, where it's like what they've been told is what they ultimately believe, and it's like I always say this to people. It's just a question. I was like, I've read the Quran, the Kabbalion, the King James, the Book of Exodus, and people say, "Why are you looking to a religion?" I'm like, no, because they're the best history books on the planet, because they've been here for over 2,000 years, and they've only slightly been changed. So what you look into that, and obviously it gives you Stoic, obviously concepts. It gives you obviously understanding how you should be as a person. It's like basically it's like the manual of being a decent human being. So when people go, "So you're religious then?" I'm like, in a sense, what do you mean? It's like, are you religious? I'm like, no. But what do you believe in? Believe in me. And like, I've read everything and learned everything, because knowledge and wisdom makes you be basically, it's not powerful. I'm not trying to say to be the best person in the room and most intelligent, but if you want to be the most at peace, then learn everything.
Yeah.
And when people say, but why it's so time consuming, and then I'm going to say something which correlates to what you said, but in a different variation. You can't put a price on you, correct? So I always say, well, you can't put a price on knowledge you take in. So like the more knowledge I've got, it doesn't mean I'm better than anybody, but it just means I'm more understanding of who I am.
It's invaluable, mate. It really is. And due to modern technology, there's so many ways you can do it. I mean, like, I would imagine most people listening to this right now are probably at work with earphones in. Most people, you know, although we're recording and bits and clips go out on socials, most people will be headphones, on a walk, on a job, whatever it might be. And that's what I've done. So over the last probably 10 years, I've been on this sort of journey of learning and understanding of myself and psychology. But it's great, you know, you're on a building site for 8 to 10 hours a day. Most audiobooks, you know, 8 to 20 hours long. So within a week, you can do 2 books. Easy.
Absolutely.
With having a few breaks and listening to music and all that in between. So why wouldn't you do that?
This is what I always say to anybody, especially a tradesman. I have Bluetooth headphones. I'll use one headphone one day, one headphone the other day, so I can still hear you, but I can still hear the book.
The same, mate. Same thing. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like I'm walking around. Like I said, there's Dr. Joe Dispenza. I listen to him constantly. David Goggins. There's that Steve. There's what's his name? Is it Tony? Something as well. He talks about the body. I listen to all these different ones. Tony Brecker, I love him, man. He's so understanding when it comes to obviously the body and what chemicals and what you need in it. I'm like, he's just fascinating. And do you know what the thing is? Let me just point out something quickly. Like when I got attacked and I started training, obviously I understood the concept of obviously what medication. Medication is just basically it's just government run. It's just to try and keep people addicted on something. And especially like so when you go to doctors, it's like you're depressed. There's some sertraline, it'll make you feel good. So it's an outside source of serotonin. So I understand all the chemical side of it, and I've gone into a bit of herbology. And ever since I discovered this, like when I have an headache, cayenne pepper with water, and I just shot it, because when I started suffering Raynaud's for ice bathing, Raynaud's is a deconstriction of your arteries because you're trying to protect your heart.
Okay.
But if you have cayenne...
What was that again? Sorry, Raynaud's.
Raynaud's. So basically, it's a disease.
Raynaud's,
Raynaud's,
right.
yeah. So basically, it deconstricts. So you see people on site where the fingers are white. They're suffering with Raynaud's. It's deconstriction of the arteries.
Okay.
But if you see anybody with that, tell them, just try this. Honestly, 100% it works, because I've been doing it for 3 years. Get shot of water, about that much, like half a spoonful of cayenne pepper, just swill it, bit spicy, don't get me wrong, but as soon as it's in your belly, deconstricts your arteries and thins your blood. Now it's the most natural aspirin that you can ever have. So if you have an headache and you drink that within 5 minutes, your headache will be gone.
Really?
100%. And you know what the key thing is about it? People will say to me, mate, that's bullshit. How many times have you had the virus? And don't want to mention it because obviously it might get flagged.
Twice.
Yeah. Do you know what? In the last 4 years since ice bathing and watching what I eat, and also obviously doing herb stuff, like obviously Irish sea moss stuff, I had cold, I had flu. I've never had that virus. I've not had any that.
You never caught it at all?
Never. And I've been in over probably 4,000 to 6,000 houses. And my business partner's had it 3 times, and he's had all them.
Yeah.
And
I never had none of that. None of that. So, yeah. No, we'd be very similar on a lot of that, mate. But yeah, I said I had something. First time round, I did feel rough, but I've felt a lot worse in the past. Second time round, yeah, I was fine.
Yeah. But I've not had anything. I've not been unwell in 5 years. 4 or 5 years, I promise you. Like, I'm like, on my kids' life, I'd never swear on my kids' life. I've not been unwell. And people say, we must get run down. Obviously, like, I run 12 miles a day. Like, I get tired. I have a couple of days where I just relax, because that's totally fine, by the way, everybody. It's all right to have a day off. It's all right to lay in bed. It's all right to eat crap. It's all right to just have a day of do whatever you want, because that's what self-care is. But ultimately, since I've been changing this, man, changing everything and learning more, the dynamics of it is like, I can see the total difference. Mind, body, everything.
Love it, mate. Love it. I mean, it's inspirational. Like, I think me and you have got a lot in common, just that listening to you. But yeah, like, it's inspiring, and hopefully the people that have been listening and people that have listened have took inspiration from what Carl said. I mean, Carl's been through an extraordinary level of trauma, but has used all of that as a springboard into the growth that we now see and the direction that you're now traveling and doing something that now resonates with you. I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, doing something and helping others, and it just reframes everything, doesn't it? The horrible things that you've gone through and processed in your life are now reframed into, but actually I needed that, because where I am here, I'm going to help these people. And without any of that happening, you'd probably be on a totally different path. So yeah, exactly.
I know,
exactly.
100% I won't be here. So again, I'm grateful for obviously this opportunity to be able to speak, and obviously to connect with so many people. Unfortunately, a lot more people are going to see me, because I promise I'm going to help as many people as I can. I've already done podcasts.
I'd love to see it, mate.
Yeah, honestly, we'll collab. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah,
You've got my number, and if there's anything I can ever help you with, mate, especially obviously
100%.
advertising, especially like with On the Tools or stuff like that, mate, you just let me know. You've got a friend for life. That's a promise, mate.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I mean, before we do fully wrap up, mate, is there anything that we haven't said that you want to touch on?
Nope. The thing is, just appreciate your friendship. Obviously, anybody out there in the world, just remember, don't take life too serious to the point of where you want to take your life away, but just understand how important you are. And that's it, man. That's it, because you're all special.
Man. And on that note, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe to the channels that you're watching on. It all helps with the algorithms. It's not a case of trying to build numbers and figures, but the more people that subscribe to the channels, the more people that get shown the content, the more people that might need to see the content for it to help. So please do your little part and just give it a like, share, follow, subscribe. As per usual, big thank you to our branding sponsors, Creative Branding Workwear. I'm going to give Carl his hoodie and bits shortly. So thank you to you guys, and thank you for listening. Catch you on the next one.